All right, we're getting all settled in here for a Reardon Roundtable on a Friday. Sue working her, what do you call that? The part of the chair that goes up and down.
Yeah, the lever thingy.
Yeah, but you're trying to make yourself comfortable, and I can appreciate that. How are you this afternoon?
Doing great, thank you.
Nice that it's Friday. We have a summer weekend. Here, let me introduce the Roundtable panel because we're going to start with weather this afternoon just because it is a significant story. Sean Flower is here, the mayor of Eureka, the home of, what's this place called now?
It's Mid-America. I forget even now.
You
Six
forget
Flags.
that you already forgot, right?
It'll always be Six Flags.
It'll always be Six Flags, right? That's right. But we'll talk about that. Your tweet yesterday said, "No matter what it's called, just come down and have fun." Right?
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
We'd
Jeff
appreciate
Rainford is here with Rainford and Associates. How are you, Jeff?
I am well, Mark.
Let's first talk with our friend Dave Murray. Like I mentioned, that the weather is significant. We got another blast of heat. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Hello there. Doing great. This
Well-
is just for Sue.
Yeah, I know.
One more shot just for Sue.
And that's
Thanks,
okay. You know,
thanks.
it's not like September is just around the corner, so I think we're going to be into cooler temps, but it's not going to be that way this weekend, is it?
No, and tomorrow, I mean, it's beautiful now. It's beautiful this evening. Most of tomorrow's okay. Tomorrow's kind of this transition day where you're going to wake up in the morning Saturday and go, oh, this is still good. This is still great, in fact. It just slowly comes back on us. We're talking upper 80s to near 90 for a high temperature Saturday. We can deal with that.
That's not too bad.
No, humidity steps up, but then Sunday it really starts. Everything opens up. Sunny, hot, and humid. 98 on Sunday afternoon. The record's 102 from 2013, which was a beast of an early September. Monday, sunny, hot, and humid, 98. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, sunny, hot, and humid. Temperatures right around 98 again.
Oh, my
A
gosh.
little bit difference with this particular heat wave coming in. I'm expecting a little more of a southwest flow rather than a direct south flow from the Gulf of Mexico. That means the air will be a little bit drier. You're not really going to notice it, but it will be a little bit drier. However, what that means is that's going to allow the temperatures to jump on us. We have not hit 100 yet this summer season. I will be amazed if we don't hit 100 degrees somewhere in the time frame of Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We may actually hit it twice. Records close. Record Sunday is 102, Monday's 103. 104 Tuesday, 101 Wednesday,
Let's break some
101
records.
on
Let's
Thursday.
break some records.
If we're going to be there, we might
Exactly.
as well.
That's the way.
Not
Now,
tie it. I
are
don't want
we-
to tie it.
Quick correction, and I hate to do this on the air live. Quick correction, but Gulf of America, Dave. I mean, come on. And then the second, the second part of that is like, because you know I'm a dew point guy.
You know,
Like,
you
is-
know how it. Wait a minute. You know how it'll all be Six Flags.
Yeah.
It will always be the Gulf of
Exactly.
Mexico.
It'll always be Lake Ontario too. But I mean, are we looking like real high dew points here in the next week as well?
No, I
Okay.
think it will be fairly high on Sunday and into Monday, but then the dew points should drop off a little bit, and that's why I think we could hit 100 degrees.
I
All right.
see.
Well, I don't know if I should thank you for this forecast, but I did want to start because
No, you
it's
don't have
significant.
to.
Pretty nice. You know, look, we're down to the last two
Dave.
pool weekends of the year, and people should take advantage of this one because it's going to be a
Yes.
hot one. But have a great weekend, David. Hey, by the way, let me ask this because you're in some scorching conditions in California right now, aren't you?
Yeah, this is actually, I mean, by our standards, you know, in St. Louis, no, it's not
Right.
at all. But we have been in the upper 80s to near 90 degrees most of the week. It's the longest heat wave we've seen since 2015, which was a strong El Nino year. So it correlates very nicely.
Yep. All right, Dave Murray, have a great weekend. We appreciate the update.
Thanks,
You too.
Dave.
All right, Jeff Rainford, you're used to the heat because you partially live in Florida, right?
I was
so
just
this is
down
nothing.
there, came back home hoping I was ready for fall. This is like the worst news ever.
But you know what? When I walked out the door this morning, it was like relatively, I don't want to say chilly, but it was so comfortable because we're getting temperatures in the 60s. That's going to change a little bit next week. But I did want to start with Dave because it's a significant story as we head into the weekend. The Cardinals have games at Busch Stadium, so you're going to have to say cool there. Jeff, yesterday, the last couple of days were interesting, and I'll tell you guys a little bit about it here in the audience if they're not caught up. But Mayor Spencer came in on Wednesday evening. We had been trying to arrange that for a while. We finally got her in the studio, had a wide-ranging conversation. A lot of it was on public safety and the police and the lawsuit against the police board. So in reaction to that, Chris Saraceno, who is the president of the police commissioners, and the chief of police came in yesterday, and they responded to the mayor on some of the points that she made. You know, one of the things that I said, Jeff, was we don't seem to be able to get on the same page on this. And until this lawsuit is resolved, we don't really know what the next steps will be.
I'll come back to the lawsuit, but I want to remind everybody of the history of state control, the recent history of state control. And I was a reporter for part of it. When Vince Schamel was mayor, Gene Camp was his chief, and they fought like cats and dogs to the point that Gene Camp actually ran against Vince Schamel. Then Freeman Bosley was mayor, and he and Clarence Harmon fought like cats and dogs to the point that Clarence Harmon ran against Freeman Bosley. And then when Clarence Harmon was mayor, he and Chief Henderson fought. Chief Henderson didn't run against him, but he quit and became the U.S. Marshal. The point being, this is kind of common with state control, where you have this sort of jacked up system that really is just not meant to have people on the same page. I remember when Vince Schamel and the chairman of the police board, Homer Syed, were going over the budget, and Syed wanted a bunch of money, kind of like now. And Vince said putting money in the police pension fund was like putting money down a rat hole. So, I mean, this is, deja vu all over again. I think one thing that would help is with the lawsuits is if they could, settle out of court and come to an agreement on this. There is going to be state control. That's what the law is. It is going to be 23%, 24%, but it's going to be 23 or 24% of this, and come to an agreement on that. I think that will help, but this is a system that is set up to be antagonistic and historically has been antagonistic. And so what's happening with the mayor, the chief, the mayor, and the board is what has happened in the past.
But you're talking, so one of the arguments is about what is considered general revenue for the city of St. Louis. When you're talking 23, 24, 25, that was kind of the ramp up each year of what the money should be going to the police salaries, right? Kara makes
the entire board, but I mean the entire budget, but yes.
Right, but so she makes the case that if you do that, if you use the numbers that the police commissioners want and the chief, that's going to bankrupt the city.
So,
you know the finances of the city better than anyone.
Right, so that's what they have to come to an agreement on. The 23, 24% is going to stick, I think, but 23, and I believe the department has already agreed that they shouldn't get any of the airport money and they shouldn't get any of the water division money, but they do think they should get all the Rams, or 23% of the Rams money every year until there is none. And what she's talking about and why they could go bankrupt is they also want 23% of the city's reserve account.
Right.
Every city, and the mayor knows this, has money into a reserve account. Let's say right now, I don't know the exact amount, but let's say right now the city has $100 million in the reserve account. That's easy math. So this year the police get 23%. So they get 23 million, then another 23 million. Now pretty soon the city's out of money. So that's the kind of thing they have to come to an agreement on, where the department says, okay, we're not going to take it out of the reserve, but whatever it is that they think they want, because the legislation is silent on those matters. So I do think there needs to be an out-of-court settlement, but I don't think that is going to. I think that's necessary for both the department, because if the department gets 23% of nothing, that's not really helpful. So I think it'll be good for everybody if they get an out-of-court settlement on that. And I know there's some effort along that way, but that's not going to get everybody on the same page.
Sean Flower, based on the conversations I had the last 2 days with the mayor and with the police chief and the police commission board, didn't sound like they were very close on these things.
No.
And that's one of the frustrating things, because now Kara is showing up. I asked them, they have meetings, and she's showing up to the meetings. But how can you not get in a room and figure these things out and try to move forward with positive stuff? In the meantime, we're faced in this immediate downtown area where you guys are right now with a car that was engulfed in flames a couple of weekends ago and is shooting, a stabbing at Pelker Park, another stabbing, a fatality down by the post office. So crime in this immediate downtown area not getting better. The chief yesterday admitted we need more police, we need more cops, we need more presence. But we are in Groundhog Day with this stuff. I said to the mayor, what's the chance 6 months from now that we'll be talking about anything that actually moved in a positive direction? I would bet against anything.
Yeah, that's the part I think if you're the public you're so frustrated with, because you're not actually, you're talking about pensions, you're talking about percentage, what counts, and you'd think some of this stuff could be long-term issues, but some of their short-term issues, they do not have enough officers. Their pay is probably below what it needs to be for the base guy coming in and their step program. But those are, the other odd thing is, though, even in another, my small municipality, one thing that a lot of the public doesn't get, though, is the money for all these things is really tight on a local government level, whether it's the city or not. And I think you'll continue to see fighting like this all over the place, because a lot of times there's a reckoning coming with a lot of the municipalities, a lot of these areas where they just are running out of funds to
but
continue doing the hours they're doing.
And here's the other part of it. There's no guarantee. I know the chief says he doesn't have enough officers and he'll use the extra money on that. There is nothing the taxpayers of the city of St. Louis can do to make these 5 people spend the money on anything. They could put it all on spend it on the lottery if they want. Now they're making claims that they're going to spend it on this, but then they gave lifetime health care to people who are already retired. Now, how is giving lifetime health care to officers who are already retired going to help you with recruiting new officers? I mean, there's no accountability in the current system, and yes, you can say, oh, give them all the money they want and they'll spend it on salaries and more officers, but there's really no reason, no way to hold them accountable to doing that.
But in this situation, I mean, if there's an out-of-court settlement, I'd be surprised if that was the case. But the settlement overall, the judge is going to rule whether this is going to go back to local control or state control.
It's going to be state control.
That's what I think. So then why don't you just move forward and then have the conversations and just figure this out at this point?
Again, the system, for whatever reason, is set up to be antagonistic, and it's been antagonistic historically. You know, I can tell you we were so frustrated. I worked for Francis Slay as his chief of staff. We were so frustrated. We worked with Rex Singfield, who put in $11 million to get local control because we couldn't control the budget. We couldn't control the number of officers we had. We couldn't have any say over whether those officers were in downtown or whether they're sitting at a desk in the air conditioning. We had no say over pretty much anything, which, again, is what creates the antagonism between the mayor and the chief. I mean, Mayor, consider your situation. If you're like, well, a third of our budget we have no say over, we just have to take their word for it that they're going to do the right thing. I mean, there's almost no other city except Kansas City in America who has such a silly system.
Well, that's why we got rid of it to begin with.
Correct.
And then we went back to local control.
Well, that was Tashara.
That
was a reaction to Tashara.
Yes.
And if everybody could have just waited a moment, the voters in the city of St. Louis, by very overwhelming numbers, took care of Tashara. But now, because of Tashara, we're stuck with this terrible system, which is, again, it's just not a way to get everybody on the same page, which I can tell you as somebody who's been under state control and local control, the only way you get crime down in the city or in downtown is if everybody is working together, and now everybody's working apart.
We seem very
but
far away
I
from that.
think it'll take a while for the trust to get up there because there's no evidence that the voters, no offense to the voters in the city, but there's no evidence of major of taking care of that issue, whether it was Tashara or not. I mean, crime, lack of police. We've had a rolling door of people coming in and out of management. I mean, it's a hard issue to fix. It's not like we can just look at local and say that fixes it.
I got a great idea. Every other police department, including Eureka's or anybody else, if the state or us or me just decides we don't like the way you're running it, we'll just take it away from you. I mean, that's just not how it works in America. We have taxation with representation.
I mean, it's been quite a different story down here, though.
So, but you thought, look, I can't keep track of where we all were on this.
Except that Mark is saying it's not changing, and we've had state control now for a year.
Right. Well, here's my position. We were under state control. It didn't seem to be working, right? There was a big majority of us said we got to go back to local control. So we go back to local control, and that doesn't work. Now we're back to state control. You can't keep ping-ponging back and forth, but if it's going to be this way, to Rainford's point, no one's going to ever be on the same page because even the dynamics of the chief yesterday, he would be very beholden to Tashara, right, when she was the mayor. Now it's like, well, I'm working for the police commissioners, right?
And
so there's a different chain of command to a certain extent.
What I don't understand is, though, everybody at the end of the day, whether it's state or local or whatever, everybody down here is taking from the same pot of money, and it's a math problem. And what I don't understand is if your police force takes too much, you will have a point where you can't fund anything else. You won't have jobs. The thing's got to have enough money to operate, and at the same time, the city's got to have public safety, and it's got to have people out. It's got to have enough officers. You would think on a math program, regardless of who's managing it, if they have the best interest of the city and the officers there's a number that's sustainable, that works, that does what you need to do, and it doesn't strike me as something you litigate. It's more of it's an Excel spreadsheet and talking about it realistically with each other. But you have to have trust that when you spend it, you get what you're supposed to. But I don't know, and I would hope the governor at some point would step in on that too.
Well, I think the governor's been involved in these conversations, but I don't know if he can push it.
I think
the judge is going to have to decide right now.
I think I'm going to predict. I don't know. This is not inside information; it's prediction. I'm going to predict they're going to settle on this issue, but I don't predict that the board and the mayor or the chief and the mayor are going to start getting along, and that's going to make it really difficult to make crime go away because they're pointing fingers. Right? The chief will be like, "Well, it's not my fault. I don't have enough police officers, or the city doesn't give me enough money," and the mayor mayor's going to be like, well, I don't have control of the police
Right.
department. It's not my fault. And the board's going to be like, they're 5 civilians. They're just going to be like,
well, and to your
deer in
point,
headlights.
when I have brought these things up with the mayor about crime, that's basically her response is that, she doesn't have the control
with
that
Francis,
she used to
the
have.
buck stopped with him, and everybody in this region and everybody in this city knew that if there was a car break-in that you didn't want, or if there were too many murders, you knew where the buck stopped. Now the buck's all over the place.
Hang on. We have much more. The Reardon Roundtable to go. Jeff Rainford, Sean Flower on this afternoon.
There's a little bit of volume on southbound 55, and this is in the construction zone south of Highway M, kind of as you head toward Peevely. Expect a little bit of a slow go through there. At 55 to the north is okay. Now southbound 270, mainly moderate volume. It's approaching Manchester in pockets down through Gravois. Now the biggest jam I'm seeing is in eastbound 6441, and it starts around McKnight. There's an accident before Big Bend causing that delay, and southbound 170 is slowing at 64. Now, westbound traffic is lined up approaching Hampton out through McCausland. Road work causing a delay on eastbound 70 into downtown, but westbound looks okay, except there's an accident past Highway K that's created a jam behind that as well. And if you're headed into Illinois, we're fine on the bridges downtown, but of course, a delay eastbound 64 headed for 159. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Thank you, Sue. More of the Roundtable coming up here in just a couple of minutes. I want to talk about Generator Supercenter of St. Louis, and it is really, really a smart thing to do to get a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator. They have low monthly payments and financing available. They're high-quality generators, and you can get one right here in St. Louis. Now, one of the things that they'll tell you in Generator Supercenter, they're often called for repairs or maintenance work for generators that were illegally and sometimes dangerously installed. You do have competitors, electricians, HVAC, plumbing contractors. Nothing against them. They sell generators, but Generator Supercenter sells, installs, maintains, and monitors Generac automatic standby generators. The certified maintenance and warranty work, competitors will not or cannot offer that, so you don't want to get yourself into that situation. You get 24-hour monitoring, peace of mind. You can't put a price on that. When a storm kicks in, ice storm, if you have a power grid failure, doesn't matter. Your power kicks in within seconds via propane or natural gas. Call for your free estimate. Again, financing is available, low monthly payments, 314-499-2020, Generator Supercenter of St. Louis.com. All right, it's Friday afternoon. It's a Reardon Roundtable. The mayor of Eureka, Sean Flower, is with us on the panel this afternoon. Jeff Rainford with Rainford and Associates as well. Don't forget, in the next hour, we'll have Sue's News on a Friday. Paul Hall with entertainment recommendations. Cusumano is taking this Friday off, so we have Scotty Warman pinch hitting. In the 5 o'clock hour, my friend Chris Smith. Chris has been well documented and chronicled from 48 Hours to his own book, which is called My Fatal First Date. And I just want to give you an update on him. He was shot in the head 4 years ago. His recovery and his journey to getting his life back is quite amazing and inspirational. So he'll be here. My friend Tim Sommer on music in the 5 o'clock hour as well. And then we'll get an update on the Tour Championship, which is going on, and the leaderboard. All right, gentlemen. And by the way, Jeff, you're a big golf fan. I don't know if you played golf today. I think you said you played pickleball, but we were talking off the air. You missed a great time last week during the BMW Championship. Mayor Flower said that he got to go one day. You went to Sunday? Yeah. It was a lot of fun. And, kind of going back just briefly to what we were talking about, that's what's a little frustrating, because we finally have the eyes of the nation, on St. Louis and our region, not only with the BMW, but I have to include, even though I think it's weird how popular they are, the Savannah Bananas were packing Busch Stadium. So we had a lot of activity, and, a lot of families were doing things. One of the things I think that was great at the BMW is, kids, I think it was kids under 11 were free or 15 or something. So there were a lot of kids out there, which was really impressive, and they had, stuff for them to do. You want people to get into the game for sure. Okay, we talked about these flock cameras with Tim Fitch a week ago. Do you use those in Eureka? What's the policy in Eureka with flock cameras? Because people are freaking out about these things.
I was talking to our chief today. Got a call from somebody that was real upset about them. But yeah, we've had, and starting in 2022, I started expanding them a lot. I mean, so I'm one of those that people start calling me, and I ardently defend them. And I think that, I believe in the Constitution, but you do not have a right to privacy driving around your car. And all these things do is take a picture of rear license
They're not
plates.
taking a video, right? They're taking. I think some people think
there's
that there's
pictures of it. It helps you locate it, but it's a limited thing but we've tied together. This almost goes back into your other story, because one of the biggest shortages you have is cops. There are not enough of them, and by having flock cameras, it reduces the time that people spend on boots on the ground investigation. It's like having 4 or 5 additional cops at your place. So all of our guys have the ability to log in. They have to log a case with it. We have records. We have controls in on how they would do it. But we had a bank robbery at Commerce Bank in Eureka that was solved with flock cameras and participating with the city's LPRs.
In other news, we still
Wow.
have bank robberies, but go ahead.
Yeah, we had a bank robbery.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was any money in
No,
banks.
he caught the stagecoach on the way out of town. But
Exactly.
But it was we've had a bank robbery. We've had a bunch of financial crimes from people from other places. I got a list of them today, and we've had some. We had somebody that was abducted that we were able to provide information on. So there is a huge. If you go to any of the departments, there's a huge number of cases solved. And
But
I
people
just
are going
don't get
nuts
it.
on these things
Yeah,
right now.
so-
It's
But I don't
becoming
get it.
a real deal. By the way, Jeff, I want you to continue. But one thing I have for later, and this is kind of scary, and hopefully it's isolated, but I have a case from Denver and we have the audio and the video. The cop goes up to this woman claiming that they 100% have her on the flock camera stealing a package, and it was not her. And the only way she was able to prove it is they had a dash camera on their own car. And the cop was 100%. He tells her, 100%, I'm going to arrest you. And it wasn't her. So that's not going to help the whole argument. I think that's rare that happens.
But that type of stuff, that's almost like saying, like when I go through it, I'm like, you have bad shootings. There are terrible situations that happen all over the place. We don't go, yep, everybody's gun's gone.
I get that.
It's
I understand
another
that.
tool. And the worst ones I've seen have been the ones that seem to go viral on it is people tracking their girlfriends. It's over and over.
Cops are doing that, you
cops
mean?
are getting on and doing
Yeah.
it. But I get it, but the tools are very valuable, and to throw away all the technology on that is just insane. If it's some in control on that, it's not. But some of it is ideologically, like we're going to have
It's a privacy.
Well, and you get like people
Big
saying,
brother
"Well,
everywhere."
if COVID comes in, we're going to lock down everybody because you know where your driver's license are." Again, you got a plate on the back of your car that identifies you. You go in and pay for it. There's all sorts of things we do, but if we let people shut you in your house again and we go back to COVID. It ain't the flock cameras that's
No,
the problem,
I
guys.
get that. Jeff, what were you going to say here?
Well, I actually look at it from a broader perspective. I don't really have much of an opinion. I'm for license plate readers, but what I find interesting with this and with data centers is that Republicans are some of the biggest critics of this. Ron DeSantis said that using
Get on that mic real close. You're losing the mic there.
that these things are out of control. That's DeSantis down in Florida, a leading Republican, and I think what you're seeing is a real change. There's a real split both in the Republican Party as far as people like the vice president who want big government deciding these things, and then you have the libertarian aspect of it. And I think it's the same thing with data centers. I always assumed Democrats would be against data centers and Republicans, being free market people, would be for it. But the Republicans are against it too. And I think what you're saying is it's the technology itself and the Silicon Valley bros who control the technology that both Republicans and Democrats don't trust the technology and don't trust the Silicon Valley bros. And so I think Flock is another piece of technology that both Republicans and Democrats, not all of them, but a lot of, again, I'm surprised there are any Republicans, being the power party of law and order, being against license plate readers. But I think, again, it goes to the bigger issue of big data, big tech, and these Silicon Valley people who, rightly, I think
Right.
people are
But
suspicious
I
of.
think some people have a fundamental misunderstanding of how the flock cameras work. That's part of it.
Right.
And,
It's people. I think Republican. I actually agree with you. I'm a Republican, and I am for. I don't have opposition to data centers, and I strongly support the flock cameras from my own experience on it. But I think there's also a fear from several Republican, just generally on that side. They like freedom. They don't want to have people, but you have to be able to explain the facts of stuff. Like a data center one, I get calls from people that are like, hey, this one, and there was one that was proposed in Pacific. Like, is this going to take all the water out of the Merrimack? I mean, that's a lot of water.
Look, this is an important
you got to explain
topic.
to people.
And Jeff, you might not have this perspective. Either of you might, but the last couple of days I've spent quite a bit of time, even this week, on data centers. And my position, I support data centers. We need them. And for the most part, I think we should sell to the American people as a national security issue, because it is. But they're undereducated. And to your point about Ron DeSantis, Mike Rogers is doing some of this in Michigan right now. I think it's a mistake, because he's caving in, though, because you're a consultant. You know where the polling might be. People don't understand it, so they're kind of freaked out. They don't know what their electric bills are going to do. Where's the water going to come from? We've done a poor job of educating people on how these things work. We have to have them. I don't know why this is a partisan issue. It shouldn't be a partisan issue.
Well, it's not a partisan issue. That's the point. I would have thought it would be a partisan issue, with Democrats saying we don't want to give law enforcement these tools and Republicans saying this is going to keep us safe. But you see Republicans who are against some of these tools. And again, the world, we're in an industrial revolution with AI and all the things that come along with it. And I think there's a lot of distrust. There's a lot of, I don't really understand this. And then there's a lot of some of these men and women in the Silicon Valley are not likable figures, and they kind of talk about themselves like they're gods with a small g. And, I can see why people distrust them.
But it all ties together again. You got police stuff where you're saying we need resources, we got to do it. But these data centers, one of the things on local government is they generate unbelievable amount of real estate and property taxes, and you're seeing it now state by state. Several of them are saying they're even producing rebates from electrical companies by what they produce. But it's absolutely insane, as tight as everybody is. If you have a couple of the data centers in St. Louis City, you'll see huge revenue changes that could help solve the problems that we're talking about.
You've worked on that.
Well,
right?
I have not worked on any data centers, although I'd be willing to. I am for data centers.
But you've talked even about an urban data center.
Yeah, what
right?
I have said in the city of St. Louis is the city and its St. Louis Development Corporation, with all of the vacant ground, ought to. And listen, I'm not an expert on what a data center needs and where it has to be. You can't just put one anywhere. But we do have a lot of vacant ground, and you take a look at that versus what the data center needs. We actually do. The people who run the steam loop can actually put a little mini power plant next to it. So I mean, the one thing that won't work is a data center coming in, being all secretive, and then that blows everything up.
Yeah.
But do the opposite. Get the ground in the city, identify where it can be a data center, get the local control, get the local support, let like half of the revenue stay in the local community, and then the half goes to City Hall, and then put out an RFP and say we've pre-baked everything. The opposite of being secretive.
Be proactive on it.
Because to the mayor's point, the city needs the money.
But you're seeing it actually, I would say, in a lot of local governments in St. Louis, especially St. Louis County. You're seeing it the other way, where they're announcing data center regulation that basically has the intent to discourage people from going there.
Correct.
So I mean, it makes no logical sense.
Hang tight. Sean Flower, Jeff Rainford with me on the Reardon Roundtable on a Friday.
Looks like a Friday afternoon on the roads. We've got an accident eastbound 6440, and this is past Hanley. And it's got the right lane blocked. We have a jam that goes not quite back to Lindbergh, and that is jamming up southbound 170. And westbound 6440 is Kings Highway out past McCausland as far as volume goes. Now, we've out west got some volume as well, but it's not bad yet. A little bit at Lake St. Louis Boulevard and at K, or also at the 70 split. It's 70 westbound that's slowing at K. There was an accident past there, and it was on the right-hand side as well. And then we've got eastbound 70 slow headed into downtown. 55, watch out for a little bit of a delay in a construction zone south of M, but we look fine on the bridges downtown. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
And this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing. It's a Reardon Roundtable on a Friday. The mayor of Eureka, Sean Flower, is here. Jeff Rainford from Rainford & Associates. We started the hour with a forecast update from Dave Murray, and he mentioned the Gulf of Mexico. I jokingly kind of corrected him to the Gulf of America, but now we have this Lake Ontario, Lake America situation. Look, what I said about this yesterday, Sean, the president kind of exhausts me on this. He does, because I just think we have so many important things that we should be talking about. We got midterms that are just a couple of months away. People are still worried about high gas prices. Apparently, we're still in a war. I can't really tell what the situation is there, and he's signing an executive order on Lake Ontario. I also don't think that we should be picking on our friends like Canada, because they're our allies, and I think there's countries out there we should be focusing in on. So this is where the president kind of loses me a little bit.
You said my partner, Don Fendler, I work with, he literally, I just talked to him yesterday, he was sitting there rubbing his head saying the same thing to me.
Yeah,
just
I
talking
think
about
a lot
the
of
lake
people
in Canada.
Right.
But I do think we're just living in, we're living in Trump's world, and it's going to last another couple of years. And I would try and defend, explain.
You just have to
do
ride it out.
It's like you're just seeing it. I don't know.
Because there have been a lot of times where we've always thought funny. If the president could just kind of pull back on, but that's not going to happen.
But it's not going
right?
to. That's him. I mean, I don't know how you do it. You take the good with the, take the stuff you like with what you don't, and it is what it is.
I think there's, beyond that, I agree with the mayor. There's actually two things. One is we have two really hot spots in the world. One, I believe, is the Ukraine, and the other is Iran. And we're in Iran. We're trying to get all of our allies to line up and economic sanctions and all of that, and then we antagonize our allies over Greenland, over trade with Canada, whatever. Seems to me we ought to be doing the opposite, which is making our allies happy so they help us there. Then the CIA director went to Russia to tell Putin and his people, don't test NATO. But then for the last 2 years we've been antagonizing NATO. It seems like there's no rhyme or reason to a combination of the economic policy and the foreign policy. And you're right, the economic policy will probably, except for someday we're going to have to do something about the deficit. But I think the economic policy we can ride out because of the strength of our economy. But man, this international situation with Iran, and if Russia were to test NATO while we're antagonizing NATO and we're running out of bombs and stuff, that actually does worry me.
Well, it worries me too, and I don't really know if I can tell you. Like we're told the strait is open right now. Is the strait open? Is it closed? Are we going to drop more bombs? Are we not going to drop more bombs? I mean, the Iranians know that they're going to try to run the clock out on this as much as they can, even with the election coming up. I don't think we've really declared victory here, but it's funny to me and just kind of awkward, and maybe it's not funny. It's kind of sad, but there are days that I go on this show talking about things related to everything in the world, and I don't talk about Iran, even though we're in a war, which is kind of bizarre, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a strange. I mean, and again, I think sometimes it's just hard to fit those type of foreign. It's hard to put foreign policy in the time frame of our local and elections.
Well, it's
and all the rest of it. It's
complicated.
There's things that are outside your control, but I mean, I kind of look at it, and at the end of the day, I was thinking about what's it going to look like in 4 or 5 years, because if it doesn't have nuclear, if it's been broken, and if he's getting enough oil out of there, and you're not, the one thing that people should at least think about is at least he has not gone in and caused huge amounts of loss of life by U.S. soldiers. So, I mean, if we eventually get to the policy place he's at, and it was a mess to get there, it'll be interesting to see how it's perceived over time. But, I mean, it's a lot better than having boots on the ground somewhere in a quagmire that every day we have a body count,
well,
and
no
we
doubt
have all
about
that stuff on there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are things that are restrained, and it is important they don't have a nuke.
Jeff Rainford, the lay of the land when it comes to the Senate and the House right now, I mean, the conventional wisdom is the House will go to the Democrats because that's what history shows. Now, for a long time, I think Republicans thought that the Senate was going to be safe. It doesn't look as safe as it used to a few months ago. Even Iowa might be in play. Now, I have a hard time believing, I really do, that a guy like James Talarico in Texas is going to win a deep red state. But this is a strange year, and I don't know what to think about some of these states that should be a lot safer for Republicans right now.
Well, the way I've been putting it to my friends is Donald Trump is taking the Republican Party and driving it over a cliff, and the Democrats' response is to go to the town square and hang themselves. So I don't even know what to make of it anymore as far as the Senate goes. I will say this. Voters, all three, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans, are really angry right now, and that does not bode well for the party in power. But, we did goofy things in Michigan. We've the handstands we're doing in Maine. I mean, if we had just stayed out of the, just gone on vacation for a year, we would win the Senate. But I mean, we being Democrats are so incompetent. It's possible they could hold the Senate by the hair of their chinny chin chin, but it won't be because the American people love the Republican Party right now. Now, they don't love the Democratic Party, but again, the Republicans are the people in power, and the people in power are the ones who get voted out.
Well, and there's a certain amount of truth to that. We're seeing a lot of anti-incumbency, no matter what power or what party. But we're getting real close here, Sean. And the talk about the Senate that makes me very nervous because what happens? He's essentially kind of a lame duck president now, anyway.
Right.
But maybe it would be fascinating to see how government would work under that scenario.
I just think it is going to be. I think Jeff's got it. That's a good analogy on there because I just find it hard. I think some of the polling in some of the states right now, Texas, I just find it hard to believe that Talarico.
Yeah.
I mean, and we haven't even hit the strike.
But that candidate, the Republican candidate,
Paxton is flawed.
Yeah, he's not.
There's no
guy.
doubt about it.
Yeah, but
he does like little stupid stuff like stealing pens from signing ceremonies and things. I mean, I agree with you. I think that he's the front runner, but it'd be a lot different if Cornyn was the guy.
Yeah, and that's where I think that's the difference is how much more you're going to have to spend with Paxton and what are you going to do down there. But like I said, the Syed in Michigan that's just an insane one, and you're going to have if the DSA type of lineup continues to run around all over the country with Piker. I mean, it does make a good ad, and you only got to you don't have to win the whole Senate. You got to win a couple enough to keep the majority. So who knows? But it's going to be a very interesting race at the end.
What do you think, Jeff Rainford? What do you think about Hassan Piker? There still feel like this El Sayed guy. It's really incredible. They got Debbie Dingell, Congresswoman, up there saying, "I don't want to talk about this Hassan Piker. We're only going to focus on our candidate right now." He's not distancing himself from a guy who is wildly anti-Semitic and crazy and rabidly, radical on a lot of these issues. But they're hand in hand because they're buddies.
Yeah, I know what I would do but nobody would ever put me in charge of the Democratic Party anyway. I know what I would do, which is, you got to put your foot down and put principles ahead of everything else. And we have got to be against the things that the DSA stands for, the very specific things that they stand for, like defunding the police and all the other nonsense. And, the idea, yes, we're a big tent party, but that doesn't mean we're going to take on, you're going to have moderate candidates or moderate U.S. Senate candidates in moderate states or in purple states or even slightly red states who are going to have to take on this nonsense. I do think it's all a combination of things. Young voters are really, they really are disenchanted. And then you've got, wealthy people, wealthy Democrats who are like, well, none of this really affects them. Like I'm kind of in that vein. I mean, $5 gas, yeah, or $6 Doritos, does that bother me? Yes, but do I have to give anything up? No. And so they don't live in the real world and they vote kind of stupidly. But some of it is this anger, and it's everywhere. It's in the Democratic Party, and the more you are against Trump, DSA or not, the more they like you, and independents are angry, and then even Republicans are. So when you've got all of this, let's blow, on all sides, let's blow up the system, you're going to get stuff like that. But I do think it will hurt us. Whether it hurts us enough that we don't hold the Senate, I can't predict. But this DSA stuff, if the Republicans are smart, they can't just go around saying communist this and communist that. That won't work. But if they start taking this DSA stuff and tagging it in purple states and in light red
it's going to be effective.
It'll be effective.
Wait, when you say the anger, I think you're right, by the way, but the anger. But what is the anger mainly fueled by? The economy?
Inflation.
Yeah, okay.
But the war, too, but inflation. And I actually had a theory at one point that people would rather have a job with inflation. And I remember thinking before we had inflation, we need to have loose monetary policy so people know they're going to have a job because people would rather have a job in inflation. But boy, was I wrong. People really, inflation is a very, very big deal. And then the second deal is the war.
Hang on. We got one more segment to go. It's a Reardon Roundtable on a Friday afternoon.
Couple of issues on the roads. First of all, if you are eastbound on 70, it's a slow go into downtown. Now, westbound isn't bad. Eastbound is slow again at 141. Westbound, just some moderate volume at K and also Highway A out through Wentzville. Now, 6440, that's Kings Highway out through McCausland, but it's mostly moderate volume, but then it jams up at 270. And we've even got volume eastbound on either side of 170, that due to an earlier accident near Big Bend. And that kind of has jammed up southbound 170 in that area. Now, 64 out west, moderate volume Highway N out through the 64 split, and it's mainly moderate volume on southbound 270. It's approaching 64 down through 44. 55 is not bad. It's slow in the construction zone south of Highway M, but it's just moderate volume. And we only have a little bit of volume, and it's westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. I'm Sue Thomas with Traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
I'm telling you what, man, Sean Flowers is giving me a lot of grief in here, so I'm going to give some back here. What the hell? He's the mayor of Eureka. Jeff Rainford is here with Rainford Associates. They're changing the name of Six Flags. How could you do that? That you should pass something in Eureka that doesn't allow that to happen. It's always going to be Six Flags.
I need you to calm down.
It's always going to be Six Flags, Sean. Come on.
That's fine. You can call whatever. Like I said, you can call whatever you want. But there are great guys out there. I've talked to their management many times. They're putting a bunch of money in it. It's like their most. We've gone from that used to be like the last Six Flags, the last one that company wanted to have. These guys are awesome.
That's good though, right? Yeah. So it's Mid America Adventure. I have heard that there are
very
updates
good guys. And they're putting we've got like a thing for a big sign they're putting it out there and all that. So I'd highly encourage because they had a little bit of trouble. They had one of those teen takeovers in the parking lot, which we helped.
Did they?
Yeah, we helped out. We got them. Our guys got that taken care of. It's highly discouraged and. It's been great going ever since. So they had a little bit of a black eye when they first got going, but they worked right through it, worked with us, and I mean we've had.
But it is kind of like a Riverport thing. We'll still call it Six Flags.
That's fine.
I've been going there. I haven't gone there as an adult, but I went there as a little kid and then as a teenager. I will always call it Six Flags. However, I don't care what they call it as long as they're investing in the park, keeping it open, keeping it viable, because it is a nice amenity.
Did you used to go to the Old Glory Theater?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I did. I saw lots of great concerts there. Did you go to the Old Glory,
I
Sean?
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Love that. I missed that. I haven't been. I have been to Six Flags as an adult, but it was when
I need
was
to get
kinda-
grandkids so I can go.
Well, my daughter. See,
That'll interrupt your golf.
I went
though.
with my daughter a few years ago, but she was afraid of all the rides, and now she's at the age where I think she's not going to be as afraid of all the rides. So it might be fun to do. While we're on the topic of lighter things, let's talk about the Cardinals just a little bit here, because they've fallen apart in the last week or so. I was listening to Matt Pauley, my friend who's on KMOX, and his monologue last night, because we were winning some series in the aftermath of a little bit of a rough start post All-Star break, but really winning series in surprising fashions. That has not happened. I think we've lost 7 of the last 9, even though it was a weird week because we were down 7-1, I think. We tied it yesterday, but still lost it. The other night, we got blown out on Tuesday night. But, Jeff, the rebuild is certainly, occurring. I think the fans may have gotten their hopes up just a little bit about a playoff spot. I'm kind of moving past that, and that's fine right now.
Yeah, I never thought that. I actually had them. I predicted at the beginning of the season, like if they were 9 games under 500, that'd be fine. If they could get to 500, I would say that's a very successful season, considering that it's only been 1 year in the rebuild. I believe their minor league system was in oblivion, is now maybe ranked 5th. All
the
these
top
kids,
tier.
all these, the people got carried away when Baez hit the 3 home runs and stuff. And, these kids are going to have ups and downs. And right now they're in downs. Plus you're going to have injuries. They don't have any depth. Like I said, if they can be anywhere hovering near 500 by the end of the year, I think everybody ought to give a standing ovation to the manager and the general manager.
And I think there's a possibility of that. Look, they got to get back on track here with the Pirates, but then they go out west, and it's not going to get easier. Look, even when they put some offense together, unfortunately, the pitching kind of falls apart late in the game. Now, the bigger issue here, and I know that this is tied to winning, but when I was there on Tuesday night, now granted, school's back in session. It's the Baltimore Orioles, not the biggest draw. It was sparse, right? I think we're going to see sparse crowds into September. Although they have some really good, like the first weekend of September on the 11th, it's the anniversary of the 2006 championship, and all the players are going to be back for that. They have a lot of great giveaways that weekend, so those do entice fans back. But it's just rather sad when you're used to seeing Busch Stadium,
full stadium,
with a lot of people and a lot of activity, and that's going to take a little while to come back.
Yeah, we're
and
not
they're
used
gonna have
to
earn it.
Yeah, we're not used to it because we're not used to having losing baseball teams. But I will tell you, the 5 years the Rams had the worst 5-year record in the history of the NFL. We didn't exactly flock to football either. I mean, and by the way, nor would any other city in America. We're just used to winning and flocking, and now they're losing and we're not. But that's how it works in sports.
It is, but it's always been a little different here. I have Milwaukee to compare it to because Milwaukee's always been light when school's in session, even when the Brewers are good. You have fans that you see at stadiums where they don't pack it, and we've always been that fan base that has packed it no matter what. And, we've just gone away from that the last few years. It's just different. That's all.
Yeah, and I always wonder, I'm not a sports economist, but, our catchment area is like 5 states. I mean, there are 5 states around us that don't have a baseball team, and they drive to St. Louis. There is so much sports on TV. A friend of mine, I won't give his name, but he's had Mizzou season tickets forever. And he's like, I'm giving them up. And I'm like, why are you giving up on them? Oh, no, I'm as bullish on them as ever, but it's better to watch football on TV. So I don't know how much all of that is going to affect you if your team's not winning.
Well, the football point is really good because if you go to a football game, and I do go to a fair amount, there's a lot of downtime, right? Because they got the timeouts
TV
and the TV
breaks
timeouts and everything. So from your friend's perspective, I get it. Like, I've backed away. I used to really enjoy going to NFL games, and I would try to go to a Chiefs game, and certainly when I was in Wisconsin to Packers games. But it is more comfortable to be at home, and I have the NFL package, so I can watch all the games. With baseball, though, here in St. Louis, it's just part of our tradition. We saw them pack that stadium with the Savannah Bananas. We'll come out if the team is winning and if we have stars, and we might just be a couple of years away from that. Guys, thanks for coming in. Sean, it's great to see you. Hope all else is going well down in Eureka. I think you got Mark Cox coming down there in the 11th, right?
He's coming in for the 9/11.
He does his annual broadcast, right?
Yeah,
I might swing down and say hi because that's not too far from where my house is. Jeff and I are going to play pickleball tomorrow at Padel and Pickle. Bring your A game. I'm looking for. I've been off for 2 weeks because I went to the golf tournament, so I haven't picked up a paddle in a couple of weeks, Jeff.
I'll have to take you on as my
He,
partner
he
then.
thinks he's getting pretty good because he's hitting the ball harder and stuff, but we'll
Yeah.
see how things
Well,
turn
I mean,
out.
you two sound like quite the athletes. So it's exciting.
Yeah, right.
Thanks, Sean Flower. Thank you, Jeff Rainford. Appreciate it. Wrapping a roundtable here on a Friday. Sue is coming up with Sue's News. Also, Paul Hall on entertainment. A couple of things that are in the theaters, including Coyote versus Acme, which kind of looks interesting to me. There's some stuff on Netflix. We'll take a look at the deaths of Dolly Parton and Tim Curry because there's movie connections with them as well. We usually visit with Frank Cusumano on a Friday. He's taking today off, but Scotty Worman's going to pinch hit in just about an hour from now as the Cardinals welcome the Pirates this weekend. And STL City's actually having a good run right now. In the 5 o'clock hour, Chris Smith, my friend who was shot in the head several years ago, his book is called My Fatal First Date. And then Tim Sommer on some music stuff. A lot to come between now and 6 o'clock. Hang in there.
On the roads, eastbound 70 is jammed, headed into downtown, but westbound looks okay out of it. We're fine past the airport, but there's an accident reported just past 141, and it's causing a delay there in both directions. And then we're slowing again out at Highway A. Now, westbound 40, it's just past Kings Highway where the slow-moving traffic begins. And then it's better after McCausland, and it's a little slow at 270. But eastbound is lined up east of Lindbergh through Big Bend, and that's kind of jammed up southbound 170 in that area. Let's see. Elsewhere, there was an accident reported westbound 44 near Hampton and southbound 270. Some slow pockets anywhere from Olive through Doherty Ferry, 55 flowing in the construction zones, and some volume westbound on the Poplar and eastbound 64 as you head toward 159. This report brought to you by Midwest Gun Shop, and that's where experts are going if they have any kind of issue with their firearm. Nearly 3 decades, they have trusted Midwest Gunworks. Hard to find parts, expert gunsmithing, quality gear. Go to shopmidwestgunworks.com or visit them in Peevely. I'm Sue Thomas with Traffic 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
You know, this is really a fun day. I'm sitting here in the studio. It would be a great day to be out at Innsbruck because they have an open golf tournament that kicked off a little bit earlier today. And then they're going to follow it up with an open mic night with some musicians tonight. There's live music at the clubhouse as well. You always have fun things, just even entertainment-wise, out at Innsbruck. It's a lot of fun. They have the golf course. You don't even have to have a property. You can play that. It's a public course. They have horse stables out there, beautiful nature trails. When my family and I go out to Innsbruck, we do a dog-friendly property. We rent. We don't own a property out there, but you can do a staycation. They have a lot of places you can stay. Just get with the team out there. Now, if you're interested in taking it a step further with maybe, buying a home on the grounds at Innsbruck, building a home, some of the types of homes that they have are just amazing. They introduced these tree houses several years ago. They were so popular, and it does not do them service to call them a tree house. You need to go online and see what they really are because they took a step up from the tree house into what's called the Sonnenhaus, and those are beautiful. So even if you go back to the old A-frame chalets, which have been popular for decades out at Innsbruck, you still have these new offerings, and you can build a custom home as well. Innsbruck-resort.com to find out more today.
No verdict yet on Lisa Brady. Fox News. After 2 days of deliberations at the Lindsay Clancy murder trial in Massachusetts, the judge sends the jury home for the weekend.
Don't talk about the deliberations. Don't listen to anything. Don't read anything. And just put this out of your mind as best you can.
Clancy is charged with killing her 3 young children. The defense says she had a psychotic break and should not be held criminally responsible. The Trump administration just filing notice it will appeal the latest ruling blocking new limits on mail-in voting, with time running out for changes ahead of the midterms. The theme of this year's March on Washington is Defend the Vote.
We have to vote in such massive, overwhelming numbers that the results are clear and convincing, and no one can steal it from us.
American Federation of Teachers President Randy Weingarten among those joining top Democrats in Congress at the Lincoln Memorial, saying they can win back control of Congress. The president argues that would put the country on a path to socialism. President Trump visiting the Johnson Space Center in Houston to award the Congressional Space Medal of Honor to the Artemis II astronauts for their historic trip around the far side of the moon. Also signing an executive order aimed at creating a U.S. Space Academy.
And he touted in announcing this how much his administration has relied on the contributions of the Space Force he created during his first term for military operations from Iran to Venezuela.
We're getting so much of our information from Space Force, as an example. Makes us a much better military.
The president said he'll be announcing the location for the new Space Academy soon. While in the Lone Star State, the president also took time to speak with the astronauts aboard the International Space Station, marking the first time a U.S. president has made that call from NASA's Mission Control Center.
Fox's Jackie Heinrich at the White House. The Space Academy would be the first new federal service academy since the Air Force Academy opened in the 1950s. America is listening to Fox News.
When I hit my 50s, I felt like things were slowing down.
This is Sandra's Metamucil story.
I started taking Metamucil for digestion, but had no idea it would impact so much more. Not only did Metamucil help me feel more regular, but my heart health saw the benefits too.
Metamucil, one simple routine, 4 health benefits. Digestive health starts here. Go to metamucil.com for more details.
Here's the tale of the daily med fill. Same old pharmacy, same old bill, but those prices kept rising higher still.
Till the savings wrangler rode in, cool as can be. Tap Good RX, saving massively.
No plan? Don't matter none. Up to 80% off. The deals are done.
Discounts hitting harder than Ma's chili. Dang. That one little app does all the rest.
Save time and money on prescriptions.
Check Good RX. Good RX is not
Well, speaking for myself, I'm glad the weekend is here. Can we have some unanimity in the studio on that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. We're all in agreement on that. I didn't think that was too tough. How often does that happen? We all agree on something. I think that's pretty good. You got big plans, Fred?
I'm going to the Cardinal game tonight.
Okay.
So that's
Pirates
good.
are in town, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
Cardinals got to get back on track. It'd be nice to sweep this series against the Pirates. Although I think the Pirates just won a series against either the Dodgers or the Cubs. So you just never know at this time of year. But it's going to be a little – we're going tonight. I don't think it's going to be too bad tonight. But, man, if there's an afternoon game on Sunday, which there probably is, unless it's Sunday night baseball, that's going to be a scorcher.
However, I am walking down there from here tonight.
You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind to do that.
He is
you have
not.
Kevlar?
He's going to be fine.
I don't know about that. I'm telling. What happens if I'm going to be the one that's going to say, "I told you so."
Fine, I will take responsibility.
It's
for
not
It'll
safe.
Be fine.
It is not safe to
it's
walk
fine.
between. It's not. It's not safe between here and the ballpark. You guys
fine.
are nuts.
The mayor feels safe.
Would you feel safe? Would you tell Marie to walk from the ballpark to here?
No.
Okay, there it is. There you go.
That's the
Sue,
opposite
did you
direction
have-
at night.
I don't
get
care.
that.
That's what I'm still talking about. Do you you don't have an e-bike anymore, do you?
No.
Okay. So what was I want to talk about these here in a second, but I want to get a little background because I got to ride it one time.
Yeah.
And I come from an era of when I felt like I was a pretty you were rock solid
hardcore.
cyclist. I was hardcore. I was riding with the racers. I never did any races. I did 2 at one point at Carondelet Park where they do the Tuesday night races. Wasn't for me. I didn't trust myself. I didn't want to kill someone.
Oh my gosh,
Right.
it's scary. They
Yeah,
go
it-
really
but
fast,
but
really close to each other.
Rode with people who were really, really good cyclists, and I did that for many, many years. And we'd go out on Saturday and do 60 miles, and on Sunday do 40 miles, and we'd be the annoying people in spandex on Clayton Road that the drivers would want to run off the road. And I get that. I can actually see it from both the cyclist and the car perspective because some of the cyclists are numbskulls out there, and they do things that make the drivers angry. But when you got an e-bike, I knew a few people at the time, and I'm like, that's kind of cheating. However, when I rode your e-bike, I'm like, this is cool. Because what it gives you the ability to do is you could ride it like a regular bike. But if you get a little tired, like I always tell this story, and I'll never forget this. It was my first road bike ever. And I bought it when I was in Milwaukee. So this goes back like 25 years ago. We used to vacation up in a beautiful area of Wisconsin called Door County. A lot of St. Louisans know Door County. Yeah. This time of year, it's beautiful up there, right? They don't even really have air conditioning in a lot of the places because you don't need it very often. Like if it gets to 85 in Door County, they think it's the end of the world. It's like that's hotter than we have at 100. It's just the way that they are. But I get on this road bike. I have my little odometer and speedometer on there, and I head from east to west across this peninsula, which is located at the northeastern tip, if you will, of Wisconsin.
By water, I assume you're saying.
Usually
wind.
on both sides. On both sides there was water, like the Bay, Green Bay's on one side, and then Lake Michigan on the other side. So anyway, I'm riding east to west, and I'm flying, and I'm looking at my little speedometer. I never had one of those. I'm like 23, 24 miles an hour. I'm like, this road bike, this Trek road bike, it's the best thing ever, right? So then I turned around.
Wind.
Yeah. And I mean, I couldn't maybe go 10 miles an hour. And my legs died on me, and the cell phone service wasn't good. I literally thought I was going to have to call someone to come get me, and somehow I made it through. So I bring that up because if I had an e-bike, I would have survived that. And what people do with the e-bikes also is that, you can be riding. If you have to climb a hill a little bit, you get a little assist from that, right?
But there are different kinds of them. I mean, we're out there now, and I see people with ones with massive amounts of power.
Okay.
But the specialized ones, but you also can get subtle, like the one that I had, that you could just get a little boost if you wanted it. Otherwise, it's just a good workout on a heavy bike.
Okay, but you just raised the point that I'm going to kind of guide you into because some of these things have gotten supercharged. So this was in the LA Times this week, and the headline was, Orange County is treating e-bikes like guns. Can the crackdown make streets safer? So listen to this. Salvador Hernandez, who's the writer here, says, you've heard of gun buyback programs across the country, but in Orange County, they've taken it one step further to get another item that authorities say can be a deadly weapon off the streets, the e-bike. In September, the DA's office in Orange County, California, is going to host an e-bike buyback program. I'm not even making this up.
Wow.
This sounds like it should be on the Babylon Bee, right? They're offering anywhere from $200 to $1,000 for each, no questions asked. They said it is definitely patterned after police departments' gun buyback programs, which, by the way, are ridiculously stupid and never do any good whatsoever. So anything along these lines should never proceed with guns or anything. But what the DA says is these vehicles are not child's play, and the consequences are incredibly dangerous and increasingly deadly. So I guess
deadly.
There's been some things that have happened where people have been hit and they've run into cars or they've hurt themselves on the bikes. Earlier this summer, and I didn't know this, Amazon agreed to halt sales. Now, to your point, Sue, there's different types, right?
Yes.
So the high-speed e-bikes in California are apparently capped at 28 miles an hour and throttle models at 20 miles per hour.
Okay.
But Amazon had continued selling bikes capable of exceeding 40 miles per hour.
Now that's ridiculous.
Well, that's
a
pretty fast.
mini motorcycle.
It is. Between 2018 and 2024, e-bike riders were involved in at least 4,000 collisions. Actually, they say 4,035. And that study found that when compared with injuries from traditional pedal bikes, e-bike riders suffered more serious and severe injuries. So now they're starting to crack down. So this makes me a little uncomfortable because now we got government involved. You have elementary and middle schools out there that are banning e-bikes from schools and electric scooters and skateboards. I mean, these scooters are pretty fast too. And I see kids even in my neighborhood. I'm
I'd
like,
be
wow.
more worried about that.
About the scooters?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. This is weird. I mean, but this is also California.
I was going to say, I bet people are using these as their main transportation, right? It's great weather. They're there all the time, and they're not necessarily on trails. They're probably riding these on sidewalks and God knows what.
Well, that's part of the problem. And you have, like, there's a picture in here with a guy who's a surfer who's got these big fat tires, e-bike that's on the
Yes.
water because, yeah, that's his primary. It's like a motorcycle.
Yes.
It's just a little slower than a motorcycle. So I guess what they're doing in California, one of the other things they did, and this again always makes me uncomfortable, but there was a bill, I don't know if this got passed, but it would impose age restrictions for e-bike riders under 12 years old.
Oh, that for sure needs to happen.
Well, right. I mean, that does sound...
But, there are different levels, and they're going to have to be specific about that because the one I had was awesome, but the guy I rode with got one for his wife, and she's not very... athletic, and he wanted her to have something to keep up with him if he was on a regular bike, and he got her one with some oomph. And I got on that thing, and I'm like, good Lord.
It's fast,
I mean, it's
right?
way, way faster than you would need.
So what they did there is, I guess, earlier in the year, they announced, this is incredible to me because I don't think we have the same issues happening here. They announced an e-bike and an e-motorcycle prosecution unit, which is specifically reviewing criminal charges. Because one of the things that happened is there was a 14-year-old boy who struck and killed an 81-year-old Vietnam War veteran and was arrested. And the mother was also charged with multiple felonies, including involuntary manslaughter and child endangerment after the fact of the crime. So that one's a big case out there. They also have different classifications. I don't know if we have that here, but they have limits on who can ride them and how. So all riders under 18 have to use a helmet while riding an e-bike.
Yeah.
All ages are allowed to ride Class 1 e-bikes, which use pedal assist. That's kind of...
That's what...
Right.
Yeah.
And this says maximum motor speed of 20 miles per hour. That's very reasonable.
That's exactly what you were on.
Class 2 e-bike can be ridden by all ages, but those bicycles include a throttle-along pedal assist and max out at a speed of 20 miles per hour. Class 3 e-bikes can only be ridden by riders who are 16 and older. Those can reach up to speeds of 28 miles per hour. It says electrical cycles that don't have pedals, use throttle, or can reach higher speeds can be considered electric motorcycles.
Yes.
And then there's different rules for that.
Correct.
Because you'd have to have
we don't
motorcycle.
have a throttle on a bicycle. That is not a thing.
No. So, but again, like I'm still uncomfortable with government getting involved.
Well,
in all
I
this.
get that.
And I think an e-bike buyback program is just ridiculous. If you want to get rid of your e-bike, put it up on Facebook Marketplace. You're going to get more than you are from the police department
Yes,
in
you
Orange
were there
County,
when I saw. Oh,
California.
yeah, that's right.
I did have to come to that. Yeah, I was your security when you sold that bike. That's right.
It was. I think it was a different bike, but yes, that you were my security because Michael was out of town and he's like, "You got to have Reardon go up there with you. You can't meet somebody in the dark at a park." I'm like, "Okay."
So we had a sale last night at my house, and Becky did the same thing. You have to answer the door because we sold.
Yes.
We had
Pokemon cards?
No, this is bigger. We had a Peloton.
Fair question.
Remember the Peloton thing?
Oh yeah.
So the underused Peloton was sold last night. This was tricky too because those damn things are heavy.
Oh, I
and
bet.
it was in the basement, and we're trying to get up the stairs, and then we realized in order to get in the guy's car, we had to take off the screen. And I'm not a tools guy, right, at all. And this dude was smarter than me, thankfully, but he finally got it in his car, and away it went, the Peloton, which I barely ever rode. So
Did you hang your laundry on it?
But that no, I didn't.
All right.
But that was a Facebook Marketplace deal. But you know, you don't know. So
No.
Becky's like, look, I've never met these people. You kind of have a level of trust. I still think and I'll never ever be able to prove this. When I lived in Holly Hills, Sue.
Yes.
One time I go home after my show, was doing an afternoon drive on KMOX 2 to 6. And Becky was just coming back from a trip out of town, but I get home first. I open my door. Everything in my living room is gone. My TV, all my movies. My couch was there. Blankets were gone. So I was burglarized, and it was horrifying. The only thing that was left was my DirecTV box. But I had a theory on this because
Dang.
they had to know.
How did they?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, they had to know my schedule because it went off at 2:15, and they went upstairs, and the cops even said usually they don't want to go upstairs in case they get trapped. But I always had this theory that we had sold our last tube TV. Okay, so the first flat screen TV that I ever had was pretty brand new, and the week before that. And this was like what was before Facebook Marketplace? Like Craigslist.
Craigslist.
So this was a Craigslist deal. and there were people that were in my house that I didn't know that carried out that TV. I had a theory that it was either the DirecTV guy or those guys because they kind of knew the lay of the land. I'll never know. I'll never be able to prove it. But that was, most times I think when you're doing stuff, Facebook Marketplace is pretty buttoned up, I think. But, you should be careful out there is what I'd say. We're coming back. We got Sue's News.
Well, on the roads, if you are westbound on 70, it looks fine out of downtown, but eastbound is slow. And that's really as you head for Salisbury to about the 70 split there. And westbound is a little slow headed for Salisbury, and then it opens up. Now, southbound 170 slows at 64. But if you're westbound on 6440, it's just moderate volume approaching Hampton out through Clayton Skaker. And then eastbound is slowing at Big Bend. But again, just moderate volume. Southbound 270, moderate volume there. But it's pockets from Ladue Road down through just north of Gravois. And out west, there's a really good, pretty good jam going on westbound 64 Highway N out through the 70 split. 55 is pretty slow now through the construction zone. We've got an accident reported south of Highway M in the Barnhart area, and that is causing a delay. On the Illinois side, eastbound traffic is jammed on 64 approaching 159, and there's some volume westbound on the Poplar. I'm Sue Thomas. That's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
The Dow was down today, a whopping 9 points, so it wasn't a big drop. I bring it up because I want you to go in and have a meeting with the Retirement Advisory Group. Bob and Tammy Kershaw, they'd love to sit down with you. Now, you probably know at this point that we do seminars with the team from the Retirement Advisory Group. We just did one a couple of weeks ago. Your path to retirement clarity really starts with Bob and Tammy, and you can check them out at retirementkey.com. You can sign up for our next seminar, but you can also go one-on-one into the office, sit down, and have them create a plan for you so you have enough money to survive retirement. It's not easy. Inflation is certainly an issue. But if you safely link to the market, which is the philosophy that they'll teach you, you can lock in your gains and not lose your principal when it comes to the stock market. So you prepare yourself a little bit better if there's a correction or anything along those lines. They'd love to have you in the office. You get a free copy of their latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. 314-993-9494 or online, retirementkey.com for the official financial planners of this show. Thomas Helbig, Bob Kershaw, Tammy Kershaw, and the Retirement Advisory Group.
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
No. And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
You guys, it's Happy National Thoughtful Day. Just be
Aw.
thoughtful to the people. I think this is for Fred. Fred is a thoughtful
Really?
person, and Mark Reardon can be.
I feel
Yes.
a little offended by that.
No, you can be
Can
thoughtful.
be.
Yes.
That's a little
All
different
of us
than
can
is.
be.
I should have warned you ahead of time, Mark, that she was going to bring this up.
It's okay. It's also National Bow Tie Day. And Fred, I think you should be like a bow tie guy. Thoughts?
Boy.
Did you try it?
No.
What are your thoughts, Mark?
Well,
Don't
look,
you think he?
I'm going to tell you right now, I like a bow tie with a tuxedo. I really do.
Well,
You know who looked good in a bow tie? Charles Osgood.
Yeah, he did.
He always and I.
Well, Fred.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But I think you could pull it off. I think it could be like a thing for you.
Oh, no.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
You don't have to. I just think.
I can see that.
Thank you. It's also National Cherry Turnover Day, which makes me think of those ones at McDonald's.
That's what it makes me think of, too.
Man,
Didn't they
those are
just bring
good.
those back, but they brought back the apple ones.
Yeah. And I looked it up today, and here's what AI told me. They have them at some locations because, each is individually franchised, and some of those decided to bring them back because people love them.
You know what's funny about that is, like, we were just talking about cherry pies, weren't we?
Yes.
And it's not like something I would put at the top of my list, but I love those stupid things from McDonald's.
Same, 100%.
Right.
It's like the best fake goo stuff ever, and even I like it. I don't know why. Okay, on this day in history, 119 years ago, it's 1907, and two Seattle teenagers thought, you know what, we need to make some money. So they started up a local delivery service, and they called it American Messenger Company. Today, Jim Casey and Claude Ryan's little company is known as...
FedEx?
Nope.
UPS?
UPS.
Okay. That was one of those.
UPS was founded on this day in history 119 years ago.
That's pretty crazy when you think about that.
Yes, two
I would have
teenagers.
said UPS if Mark would have given me a chance.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Not very thoughtful.
Not very thoughtful. That's right. That's how I am.
And then 104 years ago, in 1922, the first ever radio commercial aired. Now, this was on WEAF in New York City. The 10-minute ad was for the Queensboro Realty Company. It cost them $50 for 50 minutes of airtime. It was so long that I couldn't find it. There was a story about it, but it's not on YouTube. Well, I guess I could have looked harder, but And then we got music for this. 61 years ago today, in SIU Carbondale just created a cookie that's made from plastic bottles and agricultural waste. Huh? Yum.
Why?
Why? Well, it's for NASA. The project is part of NASA's effort to develop food sources for deep space missions. Surprisingly, the cookies have already gotten positive feedback for the smell, but the taste tests are still awaiting approval. But that's the kind of stuff they're working for. If we're going to space and sending people, we want to be able to not have to drag a bunch of food along. You want to be able to use stuff that's there.
Made out of plastics?
I get it, Fred. And Italian scientists are releasing thousands of baby octopuses into the Adriatic Sea. It's part of a project to try to slow the spread of invasive blue crabs. The crabs have caused major damage to shellfish populations in Italy. They estimate they've lost $20 million since 2022. So the team has already released 80,000 of these octopuses, hoping that the natural crab predators will keep them in check.
It's a good thought.
My octopus teacher, I'm telling you, great
still never watched
documentary.
Never watched that yet.
Okay, and we've got just a little bit of something from a podcast. Sebastian has begun posting his We Got Company podcast on YouTube yesterday, and he had Seinfeld on, and he said, have you ever had a failure in your career?
Whoops, sorry about that. I still had Sonny and Cher going.
Other
This is
than that
Sebastian Maniscalco? Is that what you're talking about? Okay, yeah, thanks, Fred. Should I hit it now?
Yeah.
Let's hit it.
Yes, there was one huge failure at the beginning. I was cast to be a comic relief character on Benson in 1980 when I had just moved out to L.A. at the age of 26. And I did 3 episodes, and I showed up for the 4th. And I sat down at the table, and I go, how come there's no script for me? And they go, you've been fired. Why are you here? And the agent didn't call me to tell me I was fired. I was already a very dedicated stand-up comedian, but that locked the safe. I went, okay, from now on, nobody else's material. Because I'm doing their crappy material and dying. So that was a failure. That was a great propeller for me.
That's awesome.
I did not know he was on Benson ever.
By the way, he's coming to St. Louis here in a few weeks at the Fox, and I just wrapped up every season of Seinfeld, like literally last night. I'll tell you what the failure was, the first 5 episodes of the first season, because they were not good, but they got a lot better after that.
And finally, in Sue's news, we have today's random fact. Dr. Pepper promoted itself as a hot drink for the winter in the 60s. And there's an ad with, what's his name, American Bandstand Clark.
Dick
Clark doing it. It's weird. But if you heat it up, it turns thicker, almost like apple cider.
Oh.
Heated Dr. Pepper.
There you
Think
go.
about it.
I'm Dan Loney with Your Money Now. The Labor Department is expected to propose a new rule which could expand access to health insurance plans through certain membership organizations. This would change the definition of what an employer is and potentially lower the cost of health care plans for millions of self-employed workers. Chevron and other U.S. energy companies are nearing deals to invest billions of dollars in Venezuela's oil fields. Chevron would expand its operations there, potentially adding 2 oil-heavy fields. Halliburton is also in talks to bring its suite of equipment to the country. Expect companies, though, like ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips to stay on the sidelines for now. Wall Street finished out the day in the red with trading in a fairly tight range. The Dow Industrial Average was off 9 points, ending the day at 53,560. NASDAQ lost 138 points. The S&P 500 fell 19. West Texas crude traded flat at $83 a barrel. That's Your Money Now.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for buying gas. That's right. You can earn cash back with Upside just for buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside, and just last year, I made nearly $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get cash back? If you like extra cash, download
Download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back when you fill your tank. Use promo code PROGRAM25 to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right to your bank or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code PROGRAM25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code PROGRAM25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
.432, this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly, Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing. Well, we got the Tour Championship going on in Atlanta. Dan Reardon's going to give us a leaderboard update in the 5 o'clock hour. We usually visit on Fridays with Frank Cusumano. He's off today. Scotty Gorman, pinch hitting, so that's going to be fun in a few minutes. We'll have some conversations about music with Tim Sommer, and my friend Chris Smith is coming up after 5 o'clock as well. Paul Hall from Common Guy Films to talk entertainment. How are you this afternoon?
I'm very good, my friend. How are you on a hot Friday afternoon? I must understand.
Pretty good, and I want to just kind of share with the listeners that we're doing this more and more often where we're doing a video component. So I believe that I can see you on video right now. I had to turn my head, but if I look at the camera, that's what I'm supposed to do is kind of look at the camera, even though all I see is the camera and I don't see you. But hi, Paul, you're there, aren't you?
I am here, and I do see you loud and clear. Speaking of, next week I'll bring on this Zoom feed. I got you a little gift the other day at the store. I'm not going to tell you what it is until I show it on here next week. So tune into the Zoom feed next week.
That's a good tease. All right, what do you got for us this weekend? What do you want to start with?
Let's talk about the film that Warner Brothers didn't release, but Ketchup Entertainment did. It's called Coyote versus Acme.
Yeah, tell me. I don't have any audio for this one. So what is the deal? Because it looks, I saw the trailer, I saw the ad, I'm like, I didn't know anything about this movie. It looks relatively fun, but it's an late August release. That's not typically a great sign from Hollywood when it comes to a release date.
Wait, you guys, is it cartoon or is it people?
It's both, isn't it, Paul?
It's both. It's a mix, kind of like Roger Rabbit was back in the day. In fact, this is the one I teased last week when you were gone, Mark. For those of you who listened to me, you went to the Sunday Mystery Movie, and you got to see this for $6 at your local Marcus Theater. It's now wide this week. Will Forte is live action, as well as John Cena, and they kind of go head-to-head. Forte is lawyer Kevin Avery, who's representing Coyote. He has represented all the Looney Tunes characters in battles against Acme Corporation because, as anyone who knows, Acme just does not work out for Wile E. at any point in time in his career. John Cena plays Buddy Crane, the lawyer for Acme, who is going to squash this. Well, will he squash it or not? You'll have to see the movie to know. I really had a good time with this, Mark. It is going to be a late summer surprise for a lot of people. There were a lot of people that begged for this to be released because it was kind of getting hidden away. And instead, A lot of people are getting out to see it. Coyote versus Acme is a lot of fun for those of you who remember old school Warner Brothers. And I'm a huge Bugs Bunny fan. I always have been. In fact, my personal email years ago when I started with email starts out with BUGZY in honor of Bugs Bunny.
Wow.
So this is something for me.
I like Bugs too. I'm a little surprised because like a younger audience really wouldn't be familiar with these characters too much. But why did Warner Brothers shelve it originally? What was the deal?
All kinds of reasons have circulated around the internet for the better part of a couple of years. This kind of follows up with the last one, catch-up release, that did real well from Warner Brothers archives. Hopefully it gives them a little pleasure to go ahead and do this more going forward, because it was a great fun to see a Warner Brothers it's not a Bugs Bunny movie. It's a Roadrunner and Coyote movie, but on the big screen, and kind of that Roger Rabbit kind of feel to it as far as live and mixing with the animation.
All right.
Animation looks good. The characters look good. And I showed it to my daughter at 22. She's definitely not necessarily in the target Warner Brothers audience from day one, but she enjoyed it as well. So Coyote versus Acme, theaters everywhere.
All right, what else you got, streaming or otherwise, this weekend?
Idiots is in theaters. And,
Thought you were calling me that for a second there.
Well, did you go see it?
No.
I won't call you an idiot.
Okay,
then.
good. Bad, huh?
If you did, I don't know. It's just okay. It should have been better. It should have been funnier, but I think they didn't find their way throughout this. Dave Franco stars alongside O'Shea Jackson Jr., who you know him. And it's the story of two guys that are going wrong in their life, and they're trying to get together to escort a prisoner somewhere. That goes way wrong. Everything that can go wrong does. Idiots is in theaters. It's kind of a comedy. It's kind of an action. It's kind of a drama. It's kind of a lot of things. That's in theaters. And the other big release, or I shouldn't say big release, the other release this weekend, beyond belief for Christian music fans, of the rock group from the 80s, Petra. This is all of their music. It wasn't it in this was crazy back in the day. I think this should have been released in 89 or 90. It would have been huge. It's all set in the 80s. It's a story about finding your way. And as someone who, in the beginning, the boy loses his father, as someone who that's in the last year or so been in my life, I kind of connected with it. For those of you who are big Christian music fans or want to see something faith-based, beyond belief.
All right, tell me a little.
Not a bad offer.
Tell me a little bit about the Whisper Man. That's Michelle Monaghan, who's seemingly been in a lot of stuff lately, and De Niro's in this as well. Is this a film on Netflix or a series?
Yeah, it's a brand new film on Netflix. Dropped today for those of you who want to take a look. It's the search for a serial killer that started abducting kids and doing things that leave them, unfortunately, as part of a trail of bodies along the way. De Niro investigated it in the past. Michelle Monaghan is investigating it now, and Dad that's involved, Adam Scott, is here as well, and Michael Keaton has a role. All good actors, and here's what this is to me. This is a lot of good actors doing good work. There's a lot of very easy to decipher plot lines here, and you may not think it's anything new, and it's not throughout the entire movie. Thankfully, the actors do good work. And that takes it over the hump from being just okay to just a little bit better.
All right, so I love my true crime. We love our true crime stuff. I'm still kind of trying to get through the Charles Manson documentaries, which are a little bit better on Netflix than I expected. I'm about to wrap up episode 2, but there's another documentary. It's 3 parts called The Death of the Pastor's Wife, which kicks off today. This is about the life and the tragic death of Micah Miller. Have you seen this one?
I have seen all 3 episodes, and I'll tell you what, this riveted me, and I didn't remember this happening. Do you guys remember this?
I don't remember all of it.
Not
when I'm
at
looking
all.
at the description, no. This is something that happened not too long ago. It's like April of 2024, right?
Yeah, that's the last one of the last moments of this film. It goes back to the early 2010s, but it was a Good Morning America featured. It was all over the map on the morning news shows. A pastor's wife comes up dead. They think she killed herself. Did she or did she not? I don't know. You'll have to see the film, and I don't think the film totally resolves that question, but it's the idea of she meets her pastor at a young age. She eventually becomes a worship leader at 16 in the church, marries at 18, and a couple years later leaves her husband and the pastor and the worship leader, who's 15 years or so, odd the difference, end up getting together and getting married. Who has what to do with things? This is intriguing throughout all 3 episodes. And Mark, these are these episodes we like. They're about 45 minutes long, so it's going to be quick in and out. If you can only check out one, you can do it in a short time. I found myself enthralled with this. I didn't know the story, Death of a Pastor's Wife, over on Netflix.
And that's 3 parts, you said.
3 parts at about 45 minutes apiece.
Did you wrap the Manson series or not?
I did not.
Yeah. It's a little bit different than I thought it would be in a good way. Because,
really?
Yeah, because they go in, it's kind of billed as these conversations with Charles Manson that have never been heard, but that's really, I think it's misleading. It's really kind of a documentary that paints the picture of those horrible murders and how they came about and how, Manson built the cult and, the influences that he had, the influences that other people had on him, like Dennis Wilson. I think it's pretty well done. And I mentioned Al Wyman is in this. Al Wyman was here in St. Louis doing media, but his story in connection to that case is crazy. He was a TV reporter in Los Angeles. He basically said to himself and a photographer, like, hey, how long would it take to get from Sharon Tate's house to this location if they would have dumped clothing? And they go along this route and they try to time it out. And sure enough, they find the clothing that the police didn't even find. And they give it to the cops. And the cops aren't even appreciative because they're like, well, that's our job. But Al has a local connection because, he was here in media and he's featured in the documentary. So I like it more than I thought I would. But I am fascinated by that piece of criminal history. I think I told you, Paul, I had a class, like a criminology class, and we read Helter Skelter when I was in high school, and I saw not the documentary, I saw the movie when I was in high school as well. Sure. So I think it's pretty good. Anything else you want to guide people into before I let you go?
I got to say something about Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton's passing earlier this week caught a lot of people. And the one thing I think myself and everyone else did immediately is went up to see which streaming service had 9 to 5. To kind of go back and take a look and see where it's at. Unfortunately, at that point, there was only one off little streaming service called Philo that you had to be a subscriber to that had it online at all, which is one of the bad things about physical media going away. You used to be able to plug it in, get your DVD out, get your VHS out, and watch it immediately. So if you had Netflix, Prime, Hulu, whatever, it was not on any of them.
That's crazy. But that's been corrected for this weekend.
That has been corrected. In fact, I had it on earlier today to make sure that it was there. Prime Video is part of your subscription. You can watch 9 to 5 today. You get your chance now to check it out, as well as like Straight Talk was another one that she starred in the 90s. Hard to believe, 1980 was 9 to 5. So you're talking,
That might be fun to kind of watch back.
I remember watching that the first time on cable at the neighbor's house. It's something that really sticks in my mind.
That's good that they got it rolling on Amazon Prime this weekend. Paul, tell folks so they can find your reviews.
SimpleComicGuy.com.
We'll talk next Friday.
There is a stall westbound 6440 right at 94. Watch for that on the left-hand side, mainly on the ramp. Now, as far as volume goes, 70 eastbound is really slow, headed into downtown, and it starts just as you approach Adelaide. Westbound isn't bad. There's a little bit of volume, but not much. And then things open up and slow again a little bit at Zumbell and again out at Wentzville and a bit beyond, but nothing terrible. Now, 64 is the same way. It's moderate volume in the city. So Clayton Skinker out through McCausland. Eastbound is slowing east of Lindbergh through Big Bend. And it's also slow eastbound at 270. But then westbound, the heaviest stuff isn't until you get out to Lake St. Louis Boulevard through the 64 split. Southbound 270, slow pockets from Ladue Road down through, looks like 21 now, and 55. There had been an accident, and it's really caused a jam. It's south of Highway M. Look for heavy traffic back into Imperial and some volume westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. This report is brought to you by Midwest Gun Works. When it's time to repair or upgrade your firearm, get the right part the first time. Since 1997, Midwest Gun Works has been a trusted source for OEM parts, accessories, and expert gunsmithing. Shop MidwestGunworks.com or visit them in Peevely. Sue Thomas with traffic, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis most conservative.
Let's fill some nutritional gaps that you might have. Maybe you don't even know that you have them. That's why I recommend Neovitin multivitamins, because it's a great local company. It was Dr. Ken Ribicki that overcame his own serious health battle, and he knew that he needed dependable nutrition on the path forward, so he kind of came up with a formula that he didn't think was available. And now it's super popular. And really, it was created to support your nutrition with quality and safety in mind. They're multivitamins that are created right here in the U.S. using selected domestic and international ingredients, products that are rooted in quality from start to finish. You can buy these vitamins in local stores, but I'm going to guide you into a little savings, because if you go to neovitin.com, it's Neovitin, they have all the lines of vitamins that they offer. There's several. If you're a woman, or if you say that you're a woman, you could have the women's formula, the women's 50 plus, men's 50 plus, the original formula, and the omega-3 fish oil tablets. You can either order those in bulk or subscribe. When you do that, you save some money. If you do a subscription, they ship them to your house every month. You never have to worry about it. If you live part-time in Florida or something like that, you can cancel or pause at any time. But look, this is physician-formulated, science-led formulation, a 30-day money-back guarantee. Neovitin, great, great quality, and a great way to fill your nutritional gaps. At neovitin.com to get started today. I feel like we should have like John Hewlett right now say pinch hitting for Frank Cusumano, Scotty Warman, because he's here with us this afternoon. How are you? Are you at the ballpark, I understand?
I am, and I'm just filling some major shoes with Mr. Cusumano. So it's an honor. Thank you very much.
Well, we appreciate that. I think I heard, did Fred say you were sitting out there near our friend Matt Pauley from KMOX as well?
As a matter of fact, he's sitting right here in the studio. We were just bad-mouthing you, and we were.
Well, no, let me piggyback. Let me piggyback off something, because I was listening to Matt last night on the way home. I listened to his monologue. It was really good. And he kind of was targeting people like me, because we were all excited in the aftermath of the All-Star break. It didn't start off red hot, but then they started winning series, and they're 3.5 in the in the wild card, and people are thinking, okay, let's stick with this. Let's have a chance. Well, then we've had this 10-day stretch, and it's been awful. And the fair weathers like me, I don't really think I'm a fair weather, but now we're already jumping off the ship. So Matt's point in his monologue was, well, wait a second here. Maybe there's a little bit more life in this Cardinals team. Don't give up yet. And I think that's a good philosophy. But your thoughts after what? I think they've lost 7 of the last 9, right, Scotty?
Yes, it's been a struggle. There's no doubt about it. We're in the dog days. And on top of that, with the addition of Blaze Jordan going on the IL officially today, I mean, it's been the infirmary report for a lot of our broadcasts.
By the way, what happened to him? Because didn't he just hit a home run yesterday?
He did, and then he made a great play, defensive play over at third base, and it sounds like, Matt, an ankle injury, I believe. And so now he's on the shelf, and Thomas Jaycee's getting called up back with the ball club, as he was with Memphis for an extended period of time. But now all of a sudden these injuries are starting to add up, and, like we pointed out, is the fact, I'm sure Matt has too on his pregame shows, is the fact that, the innings just you're not getting the innings that you're supposed to from your starting rotation. And you got a couple of guys that are on the shelf that are on your starting rotation. You had a bullpen day yesterday. So my other point is the bullpen is really getting taxed. It's the old domino effect, and that's kind of what we're seeing right now. Now, the positive thing is Palante had checked out real good, and it sounds like when there's 2 players that you can add to the roster come September 1st, a position player as well as a pitcher, it sounds like Palante will be back with the club. So that's a positive, because he's really turned things around after a really tough second half last year. And so that'll be a huge addition. But it is going to be really interesting to see, like, if Hunter Dobbins maybe comes back at all, how they try to figure out this starting rotation. Do you go to a 6-man rotation, and all these innings that this bullpen has been eating up over the last week or so?
And you kind of transitioned into what I was going to ask next, Scotty, perfectly. And I think a lot of people, when you see okay, Palante's heading to the 15-day IL and Dobbins to the 10 or whatever, you assume, okay, they're going to be out for 2 weeks or they're going to be gone for 10 days and then they'll be back. And sometimes that is not the case, and it seems like that might be the case with Hunter Dobbins. So how do they navigate this? Something I think that is interesting is just yesterday, Gordon Graceffa, who used to be a starter, has been a relief pitcher largely during his time in the majors, looked really good in his 3 innings of work. Do you think that maybe that's something that they could explore as they try to navigate what the rotation will look like the final few weeks of the season?
Absolutely. I think you have to, honestly, Ethan, you got to keep everything under consideration for this ball club moving forward. Here's the other thing. You have Kyle Leahy going tomorrow, and I know Ali told us a couple, 2-3 weeks ago that they were really going to be very cautious with his innings because he's getting to a career high because this is his actual first year ever as a starter. And you're also getting close with some of these other starters where they haven't pitched as many innings. I think McGreevy's the one that's the longest. He did combination of AAA and major leagues a couple of years ago. He did 173, and he's now up to about 140. But again, you're watching those innings, and you got to see what's happening. But to Mark's point, Ethan, is the fact that, yeah, you're right in the middle of the wild card, and I know we've discussed this before. Maybe the last time I was on with you guys is, do you make the chase and try to get into the playoffs? And I've said it from the get-go. I just go by what Chaim Bloom and everybody has said is this season is about the future. It is not for now. And as I was telling several people here at the ballpark this past week, I said, look, let's get perspective here. On August 25th, the Cardinals were 66-66. Raise your hand if you thought the Cardinals were 500 before the season started on August 25th.
Nope.
I don't
not
think
many
anybody
hands.
would have been
many
raising
hands.
their hands.
I'm with you on that. So, yeah, I think it's not a complete disaster, and we're still seeing some sparks. What about Baez right now? I mean, you just kind of roll with it because he's certainly struggling after the hot 3 home runs at Wrigley Field.
Yeah, I think so. Actually, I'm glad you said that, Mark, because if folks tune in to Cardinals TV tonight at 6:30, my man Mark Sweeney is going to be working with me, and we're going to actually break down what he's doing at the plate. Those guys that play the game, I've told you before, I've learned so much sitting in the room with those guys. They like his approach. They really do. The biggest thing right now, as Mark will explain, is he's really chasing the high heat more than that. And it's a work in progress. And this is what you were going to get when you brought him up. The guy's going to hit mammoth home runs. He's going to get you stolen bases when he gets on base. Plays a very, very good defense, but he's going to strike out a lot. And that's one of the things that obviously he is still working on, but he's improved so much from his earlier career to what happened in his turnaround last year in Springfield AA, and obviously when he's with the AAA ball club. But this is another level. This is the greatest level, and this is something that's a learning process. But everything I understand, I haven't had a personal conversation with Joshua, but everything I understand is the guy is a great student of the game and wants to learn and wants to be better. And that's when you get young guys like that, that's exactly what you want on your ball club is a guy who wants to always be better, not be satisfied with what you have.
Scotty, it feels like the intensity in the National League Rookie of the Year race is getting stronger with every single day of games being played. It feels like Cardinals and Reds fans are fighting on Twitter every single night. And, you got Sal Stewart, a guy that certainly has the home run edge, the power edge, and J.J. Weatherholt, who, has the defensive metrics that certainly make him a little more pleasant in other ways. So with a few weeks remaining here, what's your thoughts on what this National League Rookie of the Year race is looking like?
Well, I think Sal probably has the edge right now, but as you mentioned, we still have a month of the season left to go. I think if you look at the overall game, probably JJ has the upper hand on this, but when you look at just the simple offensive stats, the analytics, probably Stewart has more of the upper hand as far as that's concerned. With all that being said, maybe JJ can turn it on. Remember early August, man, he was really cold. He was getting on base, but it's more, bases on balls. He was getting walks, manufacturing his way on base because he wasn't hitting the baseball much. Look, he's playing more baseball now than he ever has in his entire career, and rookies are going to hit that wall. And I think he hit that wall in August, which is about the time normally a lot of the rookies hit that wall because of so many games played and the grind that it is day in and day out when it's hot out. So now let's see if he can kind of get his second win in this last month of the season and make a strong push against Stewart. But it's gonna be tight. But I'd have to say, unfortunately, I think the guy from Cincinnati might have a little bit of the lead. But you know what? I'll take a J.J. Weatherholt any day. This guy, you think about what he's done in his first season, even as you pointed out, Ethan, from a defensive standpoint. He was drafted as a shortstop, and this guy's metrics are better than any second baseman in baseball.
Yeah, that's incredible.
He's right there with Bryce Terang.
That really is.
And this is his first year, and I think.
Well, that's why you're rewarding him with the contract, right?
My point exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why you give him, because that's a guy you want to build around. Him and Burley and Walker and Wynn, those are the guys. And obviously it's been great to see Burley and Walker have their breakout seasons this year, too, as everyday players.
All right, Scotty Warren, we'll see you on the TV. Thanks for pinch hitting for Frank. Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
All right, we'll see you.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
If you are headed in from Illinois, there's some volume approaching and crossing the Poplar westbound. Also on the Illinois side, a jam eastbound 64, 157 to 159. Now, eastbound 70 is slow, headed into downtown. Westbound is pretty good. In fact, it looks good out through Wentzville. 64, still some volume at Hampton and Clayton Skanker, with eastbound slowing east of Lindbergh through Big Bend. We've got a little bit of volume in both directions at 270. And then westbound traffic picks up again. Lake St. Louis Boulevard on out through the 70 split. Southbound 270 is not bad. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
filed an appeal. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. A legal back and forth continues over an executive order putting new restrictions on how the Postal Service delivers vote-by-mail ballots.
Democratic-led states are suing to stop the implementation of the order ahead of November's midterm elections. A federal judge in Boston agreed to issue a temporary injunction. That ruling is now being appealed by the Justice Department. Earlier this week, the U.S. Supreme Court allowed the executive order to continue while it's litigated, but stopped short of deciding whether or not it's legal. The executive order allows the Postal Service to refuse to deliver ballots in states that do not submit a list of eligible voters to the federal government.
Fox's Jared Halpern in Washington. The National Park Service backs the proposed arch for Washington, D.C., proposed by President Trump, despite what it says are adverse effects to the sight line between many D.C. landmarks. A report from the Park Service says the same characteristics that make Memorial Circle sensitive from a preservation perspective are also the characteristics that make it the historically appropriate location. Jurors in the Lindsay Clancy trial will resume deliberations Monday. The Massachusetts mom is charged with strangling her 3 children. Then authorities say she jumped out a second-floor window to try to kill herself.
The defense says Clancy's attempt to take her life is proof that she was suffering from postpartum psychosis, made worse by taking 13 different prescription medications. Prosecutors say Clancy was not over-medicated and argue her suicide attempt is proof of a motive. She wanted to die but couldn't go through with it unless her 3 children were gone first.
Fox's Brian Yennis in Plymouth. Wall Street stocks dipped, but not by much after economists said a speech by Fed Chair Kevin Warsh helped strengthen faith the central bank would do what's needed to bring inflation down. The Dow lost 9, the Nasdaq minus 138. America's listening to Fox News.
When I hit my 50s, I felt like things were slowing down.
This is Sandra's Metamucil story.
I started taking Metamucil for digestion, but had no idea it would impact so much more. Not only did Metamucil help me feel more regular, but my heart health saw the benefits too.
Metamucil. One simple routine, 4 health benefits. Digestive health starts here. Go to Metamucil.com for more details.
Here's a tale of Becky. Didn't know what to do with new meds prescribed and no real cost clue.
She squinted at prices, that can't be right. Then tapped GoodRx and saw the light.
She can get a deal. Book telehealth if she feels.
Learn about those meds without any stress. That one little app does all the rest. Even my horse downloaded it. Dang, save time and money on prescriptions.
Check GoodRx. GoodRx is not insured.
We're going to have a great music conversation with our friend Tim Sommer a little later this hour. He's got a book out right now, and we touched on it's really kind of a collection of his essays, rock and roll stories over the years. But I also want him to comment on really 3 deaths. We never really had a trifecta, if you will. But if you want to talk about Frank Beard from ZZ Top, he had passed away the week before. I know Tim wants to talk about him and Tim Curry and Dolly, so we'll get into that.
Don't forget about Peter Cullen.
And remind me who that is.
He played Optimus Prime and Eeyore.
Yeah.
He was a big voice actor.
Okay, but I'm not putting him in the trifecta, I don't think people know him enough, but that's okay. Thank you for reminding me. Are we all set with our technology here?
We are.
Okay, Chris Smith is here, my friend Chris, who has a book out now called My Fatal First Date, a true life story of survival, tragedy, inspiration, triumph, and faith. He's got his band playing around in the areas. He's bugging me all the time for more publicity. I finally caved this afternoon. We have him on video, so you can watch the video stream. What is going on, Chris? How are you?
Very well, brother. You're getting great.
Just making sure we can hear you okay. Did you just say I'm getting gray?
You heard me correctly.
I'm going to hang up on you. That's what's going to happen. How about
Hey,
that?
but our hair both still look good.
Okay,
so.
good. At least you're going to say that. All right, so we wanted to catch up with you just because you got a lot going on right now. And every once in a while, it's funny, Chris, I don't know if I told you the story, where I take my puppy, Max, no leash needed, in Valley Park. A couple of months ago, I walk in there to pick him up. And there were two people at the front. And they're like, "Oh, we watched the 48 Hours that you're in about your friend who was shot." I'm like, it's amazing how many people. I still hear from people across the country because you can watch that episode on Paramount Plus. The country, as you know, we love our true crime, right? It happens time and time again. And your episode with 48 Hours was captivating. For those people who might not know your story, I kind of always like to start with that. So just give us a summation. Chris and I got to know each other many years ago when he called my radio show on KMOX, and Dave Klein called him Chris in the Country. And he was a regular caller. And then eventually I made an ill-fated bet with him about the election in 2016. I had agreed to shave my head. I weaseled out of that agreement. And I said, hey, let's go to a Cardinals game instead. And then we became friends. But then the story kind of takes off from there and what happened to you personally now. What would it be, 4 years ago this Thanksgiving?
It will be 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, it'll be 5. Coming up on 5. Can you believe it?
Well, I can't.
I mean seriously,
the question would be, can you believe it?
No, it's still so surreal. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's like, be careful what you wish for, because, I'd always complain and bitch to you. I'd be like, gosh, I wish I was back in St. Louis. I love what I was doing. We're having my company, raise my daughter, living the bachelor life. But I was like, I'd love to get back to playing music again, be in St. Louis. Well, boom, I got what I wanted. But
That's
I
in
had
a
to take
weird
both
way.
to get it.
Yeah. So
right?
you went out with a woman on a first date the night before Thanksgiving 5 years ago, and her crazy ex-boyfriend tracked you guys down, basically assassinated her. You don't remember any of this. Chris doesn't really remember anything leading up, but then you were left for dead, and they found you the next day on Thanksgiving. People were expecting both you and Leslie Reeves was the woman who was killed at family get-togethers for Thanksgiving. They kind of did a wellness check on you, and you were there, and your dog was just sitting there. I mean, it's a miracle that you even survived that night, isn't it?
Yeah, I call myself a 0%er. I had 0% chance of surviving, a 0% chance of recovering.
And that's not you just saying that. I mean, the doctors told your mom that, right?
I wouldn't live. Yes.
Yeah.
And if I did, I'd be on a ventilator, bedridden with severe cognitive impairments, never to walk, talk, speak, laugh. I hate using the term vegetable, but that's what I would be.
That was what the prediction was. Well, the exact opposite happened, right? I mean, so then Chris calls me in January, a couple of months after the shooting. I honestly, and I was telling my audience at the time, I never thought I'd hear from you again, never thought we'd speak again, but you came out of the coma. It was like an induced coma, right? Because you were still in really bad shape.
I was in a natural coma, but they had to induce me because I was coming out of a natural coma like 3 weeks after I was shot. So they had to keep, my brain was still swelling really bad. So they had to put me back under again. And then I woke up on January 12th, looking up at the board, it was 2022. And I started freaking out. But then once I had the pity party, got my wits about me, I found you and called you up, and we both cried on the phone on FaceTime. After you hung up on me,
I
first
did
two
hang up
times
on
I
him.
called.
Well, because he called, I was like, who is calling me? And I didn't realize it was a FaceTime call, which was unusual. And your voice, well, first of all, he looked different. He had tubes on him, and then his voice was different because you had strokes. So, but it was incredible because, yes, we did cry because I never thought that I would hear from you again. So then you start your road to recovery. But let's kind of, fast forward a little bit because it was a long road to recovery. I talked to you a lot of times. You were not very positive, but you kept at it. There were medical breakthroughs. You're doing a lot better now, but you're also kind of getting out there and trying to tell your story, right? And there's even a little interest from Hollywood. You've worked with our now mutual friend, John O'Leary. You've gotten close with John. He had a movie made about his life, and there's some parallels there, aren't there?
Yes, a lot. Yes, it's great. I mean, there's a documentary and a feature film both in development right now. They're shooting for, no pun intended, shooting for the documentary to start production by spring of next year. And then the theatrical feature film, as I'm told to call it. That's what they call when they're in a movie theater. It's a theatrical feature film.
Right.
I'm learning a lot about everything, Mark. I mean, I really am.
Well, and that's
become
part of the
more wise.
process. But I think look, I'll tell you, if I had the resources that would give me the ability to do a documentary on you, I would have done it because it's a great, great story, and I'm glad that someone's stepping in and does have those resources because it's a story that needs to be told. I mean, it's not just a story of surviving that crime. But there's some crazy aspects of it, like, I don't like to say his name, but the piece of human debris that killed Leslie and almost killed you. He even this is one of the weirdest parts of the stories, he puts a hit out on you. And one of the police officers offers someone $10,000 to kill you guys, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, that's it. That's correct. Yep.
Now, has he ever been, I don't know if really there's a purpose for this. He's found guilty of first-degree murder, and I don't know what charges related to you, but is there still going to be an effort to try him for the charge of putting the hit out?
No. The state prosecutor canceled that because it wouldn't add any more years to his life. I mean, he's behind bars till the day he dies.
Right, and that's
he's not getting out.
That's what's important.
He's tried to appeal several things. I mean, try to say his civil rights are violated. The guy's a.
I know. I know
so
what he is. Yes.
You know.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we all do.
But what's the journey been like recently, sharing your story and the effect that it has on people? And you know this because I tell you this, but I hear from people all the time. I'll hear from people after this conversation tonight, and maybe there's some folks out there that have not watched the 48 Hours piece, and you can find it on Paramount. It's called Fatal First Date. But I know that you have, and you've been experiencing this, and you're having an effect on people, and they're hearing your story, and they're taking positive things away from, how hard you fought and your survival story, Chris.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm proof. Don't ever give up. And also, I'm not trying to shove religion down anybody's throat. I am lucky that our local Fox affiliate covered it here in town, and Dr. Mark Siegel had me on Fox News to talk about my near-death experience. We go on when we die. I had 4 angels, and the 4th one gave me a message to bring back to deliver to my mother. When we were recording the 40 Hours episode, sitting around the kitchen table, Aaron Moriarty asked me, "Did you see anything?" And I kind of got choked up. I looked at my mom, and I told her. And so anyways, that's in the book, or you can actually look up on Fox News, Mark Siegel, Christopher Smith. But we can do anything. We have the power to do anything and overcome anything, no matter how crappy life is. Believe me, it's not that bad. Use every grain in your hourglass as a very precious moment and savor it. Be kind. Love your neighbor as you love thyself. I mean, we're in our tumultuous times that we're in right now. Life is too short. I mean, I don't agree with everybody. You don't agree with everybody, but we only get one chance on earth unless you're like me and you get two times. I got a do-over. Thank you, God. But I mean, I'm sharing my story, Mark, with everybody. I mean, I'll be at my shows. People come up to me. You're Chris in the country. You're Mark's buddy, Chris in the country. I'm like, wow. I mean, you'd be surprised how many times people didn't even see me on the street. They just know who I am. I don't know.
That's
know
amazing.
How or why.
Well, wait a second. I want you to talk about the music too, because I don't want to forget about that. Because you're out there, and you're Chris used to play music before this all happened, but you're out there with the band, and you're doing stuff again, right?
Yes, we are called No Exit Wound. The record label execs suggested that because the Bulls filled me on mine. I'm like, hey, that's gold, man.
Yeah.
So tomorrow night we are playing at Circle 6 Acres Watering Hole down in Defiance, Missouri. And they actually have a ranch. And so they call it a watering hole, a restaurant, and they have a meat locker there. They sell fresh beef, Angus beef. You can't beat it. I mean, they're getting a free plug. But then we'll be at Cedar Lake Cellars on Halloween, October 31st from 1 to 4 p.m. too. We're playing all over the town. You can go to my website, chrissmithmotivatesyou.com, for all the events and more information. I'm now represented by AAE speakers, so I'm out there speaking to the people too.
Yeah, you're kind of like on the TED Talk, not quite the TED Talk circuit, but along those lines,
no
right?
TED Talk. No, I'm going to get out there doing what John Leary does, talking to people, live audiences. And one of the producers of the movie and doc, they're like, you have got to get a podcast. I'm like, well, I need a sidekick. And I was like, I got a guy in mind, but I don't think we can afford him.
Yeah, you can't afford me.
You, Mark.
Yeah, you can't afford me.
And you don't have time. You're too busy. You're too busy golfing and talking on the radio.
Well, I think the documentary is a great idea, by the way, and I think I hope that moves forward because I think that will give you some solid foundation for some storytelling if there's going to be a feature film. And then the big story and the big issue really becomes who's going to play me. I mean, the casting decision on who plays me in the feature film, that might be the biggest stumbling block, moving along to make sure we get that right, Chris. I hope the producer realizes that.
Nicolas Cage.
I kind of like that one. He's a little crazier than I am, though. I like that same age group. We'll think about it. Talk about, before I let you go, because one of the parts of your story is really medical advances and the doctors. And even though many doctors said you didn't have a chance, the doctors that have stepped in the last couple of years with some of the technology really have gotten you to the place where you are right now, right?
Yes. So WashU Neuro, Dr. Alexander Carter, and Dr. Eric Luthard. Eric Luthard, he invented a device. It's called an ATDME. So that stands for Assisted Technology Durable Medical Equipment. He invented this device called the IPSI hand. It's a brain network interface device. You wear like a little hat, and it captures your brain signals going down to your arm. It helps to restore hand and arm function. All right. He had an idea. He was like, well, I don't believe the left side of the brain controls the right. Right doesn't control the left. He believes both sides of the brain control both sides of our body. Well, it really does. He created a jumper wire basically from the good part to the bad part to restore arm and hand function. I've been working with State Rep Mike Coslow and State Rep Dr. George Ceruzza to get this Medicaid and Medicare approved for everybody around the state of Missouri. And they put me in contact with the Assistant Director of Missouri Medicaid, Jesse Dresner. So I'm working with them. Politicians gave me the cell phone number, Mark. You know how I am. That's the worst thing
I think
it's
impressive. And soon, let me tell you, he's working behind the scenes. You've been working with some of the local congressional members and I think Senator Schmidt and trying to get some of this stuff done nationally too. So you're becoming an advocate.
Mesenchymal stem cells. Yes, I want to help thousands around the country heal, not only from stroke, TBI, multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, and dementia. Mesenchymal stem cells, MSCs for short. And it's pronounced men is chi mold.
Okay.
And they harvest them from your bone marrow and they intranasally inject them up to the vessels feeding your brain. And then they transfer them into baby neural cells and go to work with the damaged part of your brain. And I have numbers from where I want, the only neural stem cell clinic in the United States, True Stem out of Chicago, south suburbs. But it's 65% success rate for ABI, stroke, multiple sclerosis, and Alzheimer's. It's a no-brainer, Mark. It's common sense.
Yeah.
Or as Dolly Parton would say, horse sense.
That it is common sense, and I know that you've talked to me about it, and you're a big advocate of it. So keep us posted on everything. I hope all is well. Give the website out one more time for people who want to track you here too.
Okay, the website is Chris Smith Motivates You, ChrisSmith motivateyou.com.
I'm glad
pretty easy.
Yeah, I'm glad you could spell your last name. That's a step in the right direction. You're making progress.
I know it's a hard one.
All right, Chris Smith, we'll see you. Thanks for coming on this afternoon via the Zoom.
Brother,
we appreciate it. See you later. This is that day that I play the bumper music soon. I always forget at this time that I'm playing bumper music. So we'll go out, but we are going to talk music with Tim Sommer coming up. And we're going to look back at the life of Dolly Parton. That's one thing. And Tim Curry as well.
We've got a report of an accident southbound 170 north of 6440. And westbound 70 out of downtown looks great. A little bit slow at Zumbell and out at Highway A. 64, it's still just moderate volume. Now, this is approaching Hampton through McCausland. Eastbound, a little slow at 170. Then you get a break, and westbound 40 lines up again at Prospect. Southbound 270 has thinned out. 55, though, we still have slow pockets south of Highway M to just north of Herculaneum. And on the Illinois side, heavy traffic westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge and eastbound on 64, headed for 159. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, I got a great way for you to buy your next car, and that's through MasterCars Inc. in Granite City. They're awesome. Alex and Gary Rosenberger, they're friends of mine. I've known them for more than a decade now, father and son team, and this is what you do. You go to MasterCars Inc., and you can see great cars that they have on the lot. Again, used cars, new car caliber. They have a 2020 Chevy Blazer LT V6, which looks beautiful right now. It's got 18,000 miles, and it is priced right. So if you're looking for, I've bought a couple of cars for my kids, for example. Maybe you need something for a college student. That would be like a perfect vehicle. It's low price. They have fun vehicles, lots of Corvettes. So the Corvette Kings here in St. Louis, a ton of SUVs on the lot right now. They still have this 1990 Jeep Grand Wagoneer 4x4 V8, which looks like it's straight out of 1976. It's an amazing looking vehicle. It's got 216,000 miles on it. So if you're looking for something like that, but they can also source a vehicle. And that means you go to Alex and Gary and say, I'm looking for a Chevy Suburban. That's what my former producer Dave Klein did. With 20,000 miles, can you get these features in white with this interior? They get it. They get it here to St. Louis. They'll ship it here. You buy it. They can get you financed real easy. It's a simple process. I can't even tell you how simple it is, because once you buy a car this way, you're always going to want to buy a car this way. And you have car experts, maybe for life. MasterCars Inc. in Granite City at mastercarsinc.com. I'm just laughing because we're doing this this thing because technology has happened so over the decades, and there's this thing that's called video now. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Huh.
Yeah, it's weird. You can see people and stuff, and we're using like Zoom feeds and stuff like that now with the show, and we kind of just started doing this, even though this video component's been around for, I don't know, 60, 70 years or something like that. But we're going to start using it now. We have our friend Tim Sommer on the line. Testing 1, 2, 3. Are you there? Are you there?
Absolutely. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can. You sound great. And then he just texted me, goes, "Oh, you do not look happy." And that was that was because I was dealing with something here in the studio that just frustrates me, and it's just a technology thing. But you sound great, and welcome back to the show. How are you?
You look wonderful, Mark. I have to say that no middle-aged man should be as thin and healthy looking as you. I mean, because the older we get, the more the lure of Ruffles.
Oh, I know.
And
Believe
sour
me.
cream
They're
potato
there.
chips.
They're there.
Okay.
But look, the biggest thing that I'm noticing via video here this afternoon, Mr. Tim Sommer, you got a great shirt on. That's a good-looking shirt. What does it say on there?
It's some DJ in the Midwest.
You got the limited
I-
gray edition Mark Reardon show. I like the light gray is the one that I really like. We have dark gray and light gray, but he got the light gray one. I think it looks fantastic.
Gray is the way to go. It
Yeah.
brings out my hazel eyes.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about Dolly Parton. Let's start with
There's
that.
so much to talk about this week.
Yeah, well, let's start there because obviously everybody loved Dolly. We've been talking about her, and there's a lot of musical history there as well. I can't believe, really, when I saw some of the bios, I really was surprised at how far back, her playing music and her childhood and all the influences that she had when she was poor growing up really had on her.
I think we say this about people like Elvis, and we say this about people like Bowie. Another one like her will not come our way again. She is a legend who is universally loved. And how many people can you say that of? Universally loved regardless of age, race, sex, political endorsement. Whatever it was, everyone loved Dolly, everyone respected Dolly. And I think that's for a couple of reasons. The talent as a songwriter, as a singer, as a personality who was always on the right side of things. By the right side of things, I mean something that reached out to every American and everyone throughout the world. She was always there for us. And I mean that in the nicest way. And then people see a list of the songs she's written.
Right. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And they're like absolutely just blown away. And I wonder.
The first things I said on Twitter when she passed was, I just never remember not seeing Dolly not smile. I mean, she was always smiling. And that laugh, I don't know if you saw this the other night, they did a great tribute to her on CBS, and they replayed an interview that Morley Safer did when 60 Minutes was worth watching from 17 years ago, and it was just a joy. I played some of the audio yesterday because I just loved it so much, and she was just infectious that way. And she was a smart business person, too. I mean, she had a lot of things going at the same time, didn't she?
Yeah, not only was she a smart business person, she came of age when the artist was universally just seen as a commodity to be ripped off. She came of age in the 1960s at a time when publishing was stolen, record deals were crappy, and somehow she negotiated her way through it to become one of the most powerful and respected people in the music industry, and so in control of her own destiny and her own legacy.
One of the things that was also interesting is that this has been an international phenomenon to a certain extent. I mean, did you see what they did at Buckingham Palace?
Amazing.
She wasn't only, beloved here. And I'm wondering, because we see, and even people that are on the coast, you're on one of the coasts, the people here in this country even think that those of us who are in Missouri or in Tennessee are a bunch of hicks and a bunch of, nothings and flyover states. But I find it interesting that culturally, Dolly being from the Deep South, even in that Morley Safer piece, there was no condescending view of the South or people that surrounded Dolly Parton. And that's a little different sometimes in the way the media treats people from the South and the Midwest these days.
I suspect the Europeans and the English, and let's just talk about the British and the English specifically, they thought she represented the best of what America had to offer. And I mean that in a very positive way. I do not mean that to put down anything else America has to offer, meaning she was just talented, truly an American soul, truly an American born and bred talent. Those songs could have come from nowhere and nothing but an American artist. And again, we will not see her likes again. We really will not.
So let's talk a little bit before we break. We're going to take a break, but talk about Tim Curry. And Fred, it's interesting. Fred was one of those guys. We used to have a great theater here, the Tivoli Theater, and every Friday night at midnight they play for years, if not decades, right, Sue?
Oh, yeah.
The Rocky Horror Picture Show. I've seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I never saw it, in the theater when it was all theatrical and people were getting into it. But that was a big phenomenon. It was certainly a big phenomenon here in St. Louis. And Tim Curry has an interesting background, doesn't he?
Yeah, he had a background, obviously, as a theater actor. He was in the the first London production of Hair. And it was out of that he met Richard O'Brien, who was the writer and the composer of the Rocky Horror Show, which then became the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I think a key thing to remember about Tim Curry is, imagine a time in 1976 and 77, and the show started playing in a midnight theater in Greenwich Village in 1977, I believe.
Wow.
I could be off by 6 months here or there. And you have to imagine a time when there was no internet, when there was no social media, when there were three television channels, and people felt the people are out there in the world. I write about this a lot in my book, this feeling. I don't write specifically about Tim Curry, but I write about this feeling that you are the only person in your world who's different. You are being told by all the people in your high school, I'm speaking specifically about the 1970s and 1980s, you're being told again and again, these are the best years of your life. Why aren't you having a better time? And you're going, no, it sucks. I hate high school. No one's like me. I'm different.
That was me.
And
I
then
hated high school.
That's right. And then suddenly you walk into the theater and see the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and that elevator comes down and those gates open and Tim Curry walks out, and it's like the shock of seeing someone different who might be speaking to you in a weird way, whether you're gay or straight or anywhere in between. And he gave people courage to be themselves. The motto of that film, I believe, I might be misquoting, don't dream it, be it. That became the motto of a generation in the era before social media, the era before the internet, of all these people who wanted to find their tribes, who knew they didn't fit in, but they didn't want to be isolated. Because it's not enough not to fit in. You have to find your tribe of your friends and the other people out there who also feel they don't fit in. And the Rocky Horror Picture Show was one of the main ways in the 1970s, 80s, 90s, and beyond where people found their tribe. And Tim Curry was the king and the queen of that tribe.
I've got to wrap it for this segment. We're coming back. You talked about your book. It's called Dispatches from the Kingdom of Outsiders. We got some stories to share from that coming up, too.
If you're leaving downtown on southbound 55, still a slow go south of Highway M. We've got construction and an earlier accident that caused a delay through there. Southbound 270, just a little moderate volume at 270. And eastbound 70, still a little slow into downtown. But westbound 70 looks great. In fact, it looks pretty good all the way out through Highway A. Now, 6440 is a different deal. We still have some volume right there at Hampton, and eastbound is slowing 170 through Big Bend. We've got southbound 170 slow at 64, and then 64 out west, a little bit busy at the 70 split. It's just ongoing road work out there. And westbound traffic slows on the Poplar Street Bridge, but eastbound 64 is what's lined up at 159. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
5:35. This portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing. Interesting results from down at the Tour Championship. Dan Reardon with a leaderboard update coming up here in just a few minutes as we wrap up the show and we do audio cut of the day. Our friend Tim Sommer is here. He has a new book out called Dispatches from the Kingdom of Outsiders, but he is our music go-to person. And I wanted to talk about a couple more things before we get to maybe another story from the book. You brought up talking about Frank Beard from ZZ Top. Now, he passed away a couple of weeks ago. ZZ Top, a huge popular band here in St. Louis because of KC95, Tim Summers. So a lot of ZZ Top fans here.
You know, Frank Beard's contribution in the band was often underrated because he was one of those drummers who did something very difficult that appeared to be very simple. So a lot of people thought, well, he's just in there in the back hitting the snare, kick, and hi-hat. No, he was doing a lot of intricate triplets and rhythm changes and this and that. What an extraordinary drummer.
Well, and I guess I did not have that appreciation for him because...
He's a drummer's drummer,
Yeah.
and if you talk to any of those real hardcore drummer cats, like those New Orleans drummer cats, they'll tell you what great respect they had for Frank Beard. Now, something I found terribly interesting, I won't say it was negative, I'm not going to be negative about this, is that after Frank Beard died just before ZZ Top were about to begin a tour.
Right.
And obviously, I think they knew that he had been in ill health. So they were not unprepared for this, and they had somebody ready to go. Frank Beard, they canceled 2 tour dates.
That's it.
After Frank, that's it.
Wow.
And, you know, a part of you thinks that's a little weird. And I looked it up. You know, John Entwistle of The Who, he died in the middle of a Who tour.
Did he really? I didn't remember that.
He died at the Las Vegas Hard Rock of a drug overdose, heart attack and a drug overdose. Actually, I'm not swearing it's a drug overdose. I do know it was a heart attack. I don't want either of us to get sued.
I get it. That's interesting, though. I didn't remember
and
that
he
had
died in the
happened.
middle of it. He died, and they only canceled 2 dates. Now, getting back to ZZ Top, at first I was like, wait a second. This guy was in the band for over 50 years, and you canceled only 2 shows. Then I remembered the economics of being a major rock band. You have caterers to pay. You have a 40-person crew to pay. You have bus drivers to pay. You have a whole hall that you are on the hold with insurance if the gig gets canceled. And then I thought to myself, ZZ Top are now down to 1 of their original members.
Yeah, well,
Because Dusty, the bass player, died,
Right.
passed about, I want to say, 4 or 5 years ago. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact date. So ZZ Top are down to 1 original member, their guitarist, and primary vocalist. And I thought to myself, is that weird? Is it weird that they're going on with just 1/3 of the original band? And then I thought, you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. ZZ Top are a brand name. And if there's a band out there playing the heck out of their music, that's a great thing. And in many ways, I think that's the future of rock and roll, is that these bands are going to carry on with brand names. And I'm going to tell you something very quickly. For instance, if Kiss was to go on without Gene and Paul, right?
Mm-hmm.
But say with our friend Todd Kearns doing the Paul Stanley part, wouldn't you go, man, that would be a great band? So I think there's something to the idea of bands continuing, these great legacy bands continuing with just younger people and the brand name if they do it right.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen for sure. I mentioned your book, which came out a few weeks ago, called Dispatches from the Kingdom of Outsiders. It's a collection of essays that Tim has written over the course of decades on a variety of subjects. And when you were here with us last time, you shared a couple of great stories, a couple that I was familiar with that the audience might not have known about when you were given a private concert by Bono and The Edge. We talked a little bit about Johnny Depp and Evan Dando. Do you have another story that you can share here that maybe we didn't talk about in that first time a couple of weeks ago? Because the book is chock full of all kinds of different stories and, you know, great homages to other people that are in the music industry as well.
Well, once upon a time, rock stars were not inaccessible people. This is what I remember from my youth, is that rock stars used to be very accessible. You used to be able to sort of, for all intents and purposes, walk up and knock on their hotel room. You could call the hotel they were staying at, say, is so-and-so, is Paul Weller from the Jam staying there? Put me through to his room. Is Bob Geldof from the Boomtown Rats?
Can I tell you what we did? And this is when I was 16 years old, okay, along those lines.
Sure.
Because you know this, on the back of records, you would have all kinds of credits. And
Yeah.
they would always, not always, but they would often put the tour manager's name down there, right? So we knew where, if a band was playing at the arena, the Checkerdome here or something, a friend of mine who passed away, his name was Scott McElrath, he was known as Scott Allen on the radio, we knew where the bands would kind of stay. So we would call the tour manager, get through to the tour manager and say, and we were kids, but we were working on the radio, and we'd try to get backstage, and it worked.
That's amazing.
If you got the right person, it would work.
Yeah, and there was a day you couldn't do that. So this is a story, I'll try to tell this quickly. This is a story that takes place in February of 1979. The first time the Clash played in New York City, and they were playing a venue called the Palladium. And in those days, it was pretty easy just to walk right into the sound check. And so what I would do, and I did this all the time to the bands when a band that I liked was playing the Palladium, which was about a 3,000 seat theater in downtown Manhattan. So on this particular day, the Clash, who I was sort of obsessed with, were playing the Palladium. So I walked in, I walked right up to the front row, sat myself down, watched this amazing sound check, because the Clash were one of these bands who, when they played a sound check, they played full out. You know how some bands just walk through their sound checks? Sometimes bands don't even show up for their sound checks and just have their roadies do it. But the Clash would play a sound check, and they were playing full out. So I watched the Clash do the sound check, and they finished, and then they just sort of stepped off the stage. And again, things were much, much more casual in those days. There weren't a lot of hanger-on. There weren't bodyguards. Maybe there was a bodyguard somewhere. I don't know where. So the Clash step into the theater part where the seats are. And I had this plan. I was 16 years old.
I was going to say, you had to be pretty young, right?
Yeah. I was 16 years old. And for some reason, the 16-year-old Tim Sommer had gotten this idea in his head. He'd gotten this idea in his head that there would be nothing cooler in the whole wide world than to get a picture of the Beatles signed by the Clash. So I brought with me a picture of the Beatles. And I thought to myself, oh my God, it's going to be the coolest thing in the world to get a picture of the Beatles, but it's the Clash's signatures. So 3 members of the Clash, Mick Jones, Paul Simonon, and Topper Headon, are sort of just standing in the aisle, leaning against some seats, and they're just talking to each other. And I walk up to them and I give them this picture. And I said, will you sign this? And they sort of looked at each other a little like, and finally, Paul Simonon says, yeah, we'll sign it, but only if Joe says it's okay. And he points over to the legendary Joe Strummer, who's standing about 15 feet away. And they beckon Joe over, and they say, Joe, this kid wants us to sign this. And they show him this picture of the Beatles. And he looks at it for a second, and he sort of really thinks about it. And he looks at the picture of the Beatles, and he says to me, no. We're not signing this. We'll sign anything else you got, but we're not signing this. And it so happened, as a backup, I bought an album with me, so I gave them to that. Now, one of the reasons this ridiculous story is sort of interesting to me is on the Clash's next album, their most legendary album, the album London Calling. The title song of that album, London Calling, has a line in it. The line is, phony Beatlemania has bitten the dust. And I have never discussed this with anyone in the Clash. God knows I didn't get a chance to discuss it with Joe Strummer, who's been passed many, many years. I've never discussed this with any of the members of the Clash or any producers or anybody like that. It's stuck in my head that the idea that Joe Strummer wrote the lyrics, the phony Beatlemania has bitten the dust, may have been inspired by that day, that afternoon in February of 1979, when I asked the Clash, when I asked Joe Strummer to sign a picture of the Beatles.
So can I ask a stupid question?
I love that.
Why did you think it was a good idea to have them sign a picture of the Beatles? I mean, I'm with Joe Strummer here, I think. So why was that a brilliant idea on the part of 16-year-old Tim Sommer?
Yes.
Because I think to a lot of us, in terms of punk rock terms, the Clash were like our Beatles.
I got you. Well, maybe you were
And
the
probably
inspiration
that's a smart I think that's what I was thinking at the time. Also, I was just thinking at the time, hey, I'm an obnoxious 16-year-old.
Yes.
This is going to be effing great if I can say, look, it's a picture of the Beatles, but it's signed by the Clash.
Yeah, my favorite rock star reaction story to a signature was with Magic Dick, who played the harmonica for the Jay Giles Band. He's still around, by the way. And I'm backstage at the Kiel Opera House circa 1983. This is when Freeze Frame was out. And Freeze Frame,
How old were you? Like 13?
I was 17. I was probably
Okay.
17. So Freeze Frame has these kind of like hieroglyphics and weird artwork on the front. And I'm just a stupid 16, 17-year-old kid. And I say to Magic Dick, I said, and he's signing, Peter Wolf, they're signing my records. I said, what does the album cover mean? Because I wanted to. And Magic Dick looks at me and goes, I don't know what the F it means. Right now it means double F and platinum. And I thought that was a brilliant answer on the part of Magic Dick from the Jay Giles Band. And I'll never, ever forget that.
I'm going to tell you something just like that, okay? Now, weirdly, this is a story that involves someone who later became very famous, and that's not relevant to the story. So, 1985, I'm at an AC/DC show. I'm backstage at an AC/DC show in New Jersey. And it so happens I'm with my friend Rick Rubin, who was not that famous yet, but was a huge AC/DC fan. Yeah. So, Rick told me before that he had a question he was dying to ask AC/DC. So we're backstage and we're talking with Angus Young and Malcolm Young of AC/DC. And Rick asked this question. This is the question. You had this amazing singer, Malcolm Young, and he dies. And your next album comes out, and nowhere on the album do you say anything, not on the cover, not on the back cover, not on the inner sleeve, not on the credits. Never do you say, thank you, Malcolm, or we miss you, Malcolm. You don't say anything like that. And Rick found that very, very odd, that Bon Scott, their famous singer, had died, yet the album didn't say anything like, oh, goodbye, Malcolm, safe voyages. And then, I'm not Malcolm, Bon Scott, sorry.
Yeah, right. You reversed it, right.
Nowhere on the album does they say Bon Scott, safe voyages, goodbye, Bon, we're so sorry, we miss you, Bon. Nowhere in Back in Black does the album say that. And Malcolm Young, the legendary rhythm guitarist for AC/DC, looks at us like we're crazy. And he says, we didn't need to do anything like that. The album is called Back in Black. Well, so there you go.
And that kind of summed it up. I think I do remember that one. Tim Sommer, awesome to have you on. You look great on the video, and you sounded great this afternoon as well. I love the fact that we pulled this off. We're going to start doing it on a regular basis. You have a great weekend, and thank you so much. Again, the book is called Dispatches from the Kingdom of Outsiders. It's a collection of awesome rock and roll essays. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Tim.
Pleasure.
On the roads, traffic is thinning out nicely. It's quiet through North County. Southbound 55 looks better. There's still some moderate volume. Just south of Highway M. Oh, looks like there's an accident reported southbound Highway 21 at Route Double B. B as in boy, that's in the Hillsborough area. Now, if you're westbound on 64, it is really in good shape now from Hampton out through McCausland. Really, it only slows at Highway A, but eastbound still a little slow at 170. 70 westbound looks good as well, but it's busy at the 64 split. That's due to road work. And there's some volume westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge and eastbound on 64 at 159. Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Audio cut of the day coming up here in just a couple of minutes. First, an update on the Tour Championship. Our own Dan Reardon, no relation. You know what was fun today? Not really fun, but relatable. Seeing Rory McIlroy chip up, not make it to the green. The ball rolls right back to where his club is, and he has to do it again, and the same thing happens. And that's sort of like what happened with Gary Woodland last week on hole 9, the final day, where he duffed the shot and topped it. It was relatable to amateur golfers, right, Dan? But it shouldn't happen to pros like Rory.
We always like to see the pro scale. It makes us feel like it's part of our game as well. And, you know, we learned something today, and that is no lead is safe in this championship. Cam Young started the day dead last in the field, shot 8 under par 62, and now he is 2 strokes off the lead of Ryan Gerard and Victor Hovland. So there's good scores available on the weekend. Scotty Scheffler had a couple of bogeys earlier, but he shows he's always one of the best at bouncing back. After 2 bogeys early in the round, he ran out 3 straight birdies, bogeyed 17, birdied 18. He's 8 under within 2 shots of the lead. One other name I think we need to pay attention to, there's something going on with the Scotsman, Robert McIntyre. At Memphis, he shot 82 and withdrew from the tournament. And today he shot 76. He may not just be able to play in American Heat. I don't know what the circumstance, but he's a much better player than those 2 scores would indicate.
Yeah, he's sitting at the bottom +3. Hideki Matsuyama is the next, and he's still, under par right now. He was even for the day. It's interesting, Ryan Gerard's name at the top of that leaderboard. He didn't do too badly last weekend. Nobody really talked about him, but I think he finished -6 for the tournament, right, Dan?
Absolutely. And as I mentioned yesterday, Hovland's the guy that shot the best round of the week last week, which was a 63. So everybody in this field is legitimate. You know, the guy that probably is not getting enough credit is Chris Gotterup. I said he won in Scotland a year ago. He's won since that time. He really is sort of sitting in top 10s on a somewhat regular basis. And it's just because he broke through a little late in life. But when I say late in life, he didn't break through at 22 or 23. He's more like 27, 28. But he certainly bears watching as we go forward, not only this weekend, but as we go into 2027.
One shot off the lead right now. Dan, thanks a lot. You enjoy the weekend, and we will talk soon. I appreciate it.
Enjoyed it,
All
Mark.
right, take care.
Stand by.
Playback ready.
Now, the audio cut of the day.
I think I have time for one gem from our favorite United States Senator, John Kennedy from Louisiana.
Dealing with the Iranian government is like dealing with a wild pack of howler monkeys. I mean, they're crazy. You can't take their word. I wouldn't take their word for the same reason that I don't drink water out of a toilet. You can't trust them. Number 2, we have accomplished most of why we went into Iran. We have degraded their military. We've degraded their economy. We've torn them a new ashtray.
He's my favorite. He also talked about the DSA.
Democratic socialism, it's in one sense, it's an oxymoron, democratic socialism. But in another sense, it's just a regular moron. And nature abhors a moron.
I love that guy. He's got to be in 3rd place for all-time numbers of audio cuts of the day. President Trump in the lead by far. Bill Maher's up there as well. Sue, you have a great weekend.
You too,
All
Mark.
right, we'll talk on Monday.
Catch anything you missed today by getting the show podcast at 971talk.com.
Volume out west, typical of a Friday, but not bad right now. Westbound 6440 slows Prospect through the 70 split. We've got a jam on the ramp. Well, it's pretty much eastbound on 70, headed for Highway A. And that, of course, mostly due to road work. We've got an accident again reported eastbound 6440 just past 170. So heavy traffic there and on southbound 170 as drivers try to get onto 64. And on the Illinois side, quiet on the bridges, but eastbound 64 and that endless road work is slowing, approaching 159. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Let's take a little stress out of your life with Stewart's American Mortgage. You need to pull equity out of your home. You know you have it. You just have a low rate because you refied how many years ago and you're sitting in the threes, but you need money. We can do it right now at a discount and the bagel loan. Now, the bagel loan was created by Stewart many years ago to save you money. No appraisal fees, no closing costs, no title fees, no broker fees. Right now, a couple of offers that are limited time. If you're going to purchase a home, he can offer you a 1% lower rate on a 30-year loan for the first year, and you still get the bagel loan. If you refi, and a lot of people need to do that right now, again, mentally and psychologically, you're looking at your rate. Can I do it? Can I do it? But if you go from an FHA to a conventional on a refi, he's still going to offer you the 1% discount plus the bagel loan. So it's going to save you thousands of dollars. He's been doing this for decades. One of the great things is you don't have to dial into a 1-800 number, wait on hold, press a bunch of keys. We give you his cell phone number, 314-324-4440, 324-4440. It's Stewie and his son Jordan. They handle all the loans. They can close you in as little as 10 days. There's a lot of transparency. Even if you're skeptical, you say, hey, how can this guy offer the bagel loan when other people don't? Let him talk it through you. He's got a lot of passion, a lot of knowledge. He's really good at what he does. He's going to save you money. Stewart's American Mortgage. Check him out today. NMLS number 226715.